What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly of Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from, go find it there. I don't know why I'm messing with my hair right now. I think I didn't like the way it looks in the lighting. But anyways, um, yeah, you can find the podcast versions anywhere you get your podcast from. Also, full video version of this podcast is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel. Just search Belly Up Sports on YouTube, and you'll find us there amongst other podcasts as well. That's available at the Belly Up family. And the other version, you can watch the video versions of this podcast because we break these episodes down into like more digestible short videos. Is through Insert Name FC's YouTube channel. Same thing. Search Insert Name FC, and you'll find us right there. So you can find the shorter form videos. Now, the short videos and the full video version podcast is available on Goals TV, GOZ.tv. Great place to go check out. Go see it for yourself, man. Lots of great content, especially if you're looking for content made here in the U.S. But yeah, this episode, no Edward this weekend. Edward, obviously, it's Mother's Day weekend, so priorities. I'm actually getting this done a little bit early. As you can see, I am dressed for my mom's. If you're watching the video version, I'm wearing a shirt that says, it's a phrase that most Hispanic Latin kids grew up hearing, which is "En la casa hay frijoles," which means in the house there are beans. So growing up for me, whenever I used to say if I wanted McDonald's or something else, like something different, my mom's response would be that. So I got her a shirt. I got my sister a shirt. So really excited for this big thing. We're going to do a little family thing. One of the few times we do something American, which is we're going to eat hamburgers. Normally we'll do fajitas, but we do that pretty often. So we change things up, and burgers was the change up for this one. But anyways, that's not important. But yes, this episode, we're going to talk about the European competitions with Kelcey Coyne. This is actually going to be a pretty long episode. So, hey, I mean, it's going to be a good listen if you guys are in traffic or, try to get through the day. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about all the European competitions, semifinals, preview the final with Kelcey. So it did go a little longer than we expected, but that's what always happens with me and Kelcey. It always happens. Even whatever, sometimes we go a little longer than we should have. But yeah. So European competitions, Europa Conference League, Europa League, and obviously Champions League, break them down to you and also preview the final. And then we also have Liga MX because that's still going on. We have to recap the quarterfinals and then preview the semifinals that are coming up. Once again, we're not going to get this episode early. So by the time that the first leg of the semifinals start, we lucked out. But all four of the quarterfinal matchups did end up being either tight or at least close enough where anything can happen. So that worked out. Hopefully it works out again. Players of the week. Obviously Barcelona won El Clasico. They have done the clean sweep. And so there's that. Give you guys some games to watch. And then wrap the show up in a pretty little bow for you. So, but yeah, so pretty long episode. So hopefully you guys, we appreciate the time that you guys give us if you do give this a full listen. But with all that being said, we're going to take a break, and then we'll go right into the European competitions with Kelcey Coyne of High Low Sports. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys. So this episode is going to be a lot different, being that normally this is my week with Edward. Man, this sounds like a custody battle with me and his kids. So Edward, and obviously it's also Mother's Day. So, ideally us recording on Sunday was just not going to work out, being that it is Mother's Day once again. Shout out to all the moms. Hope you guys had a great Mother's Day weekend. Yeah, so, I had to maneuver some things around. Luckily, we have our great super sub, Kelcey Coyne from High Low Sports, to come here and talk about the European competition. This actually worked out great, by the way. Like the fact that these the semifinals had concluded to where I don't really need to worry about finding some headlines today for this episode. So,
Yeah, you were gifted some headlines for once. It's not often that it happens for you.
Yeah, Mother's Day came in clutch for me, just like mothers always do. So there we go. That's a perfect marriage right there. Anyways, but yeah, so the European competitions have concluded, and also once again, Edward it has the kids and all that, so can't promise you he'll be back next week. We probably won't see him for another week or two. Anyways, which works out for me as well. But anyways, Europa Conference League. We're gonna kick things off with that with all the European competitions. Like I told everybody when this season started, because of the fact that you had this new format, and Conference League is a little bit trickier for me and Edward, and I'm sure Kelcey as well, because they're just a lot of very much smaller clubs that we are probably not well suited to understand them in some cases pronounce. I know a lot of people give me a lot of flack for how I pronounce Leicester City. I just want to point out that English was not my first language, and also want to point out that when I learned English, I learned American English because
Mm.
apparently that's a big difference.
Oh, it
So
is. It is.
so yeah, I just want to point that out. I'm never. You know, as a matter of fact, I want to challenge somebody properly pronounce my name. By the end of this episode, I'll actually give you guys how my name is actually supposed to be pronounced. Do I care if people mispronounce my name? No, because everybody mispronounces my name, and I'm perfectly fine with it. But I would love to hear everyone try to pronounce my name. At the end of the episode, I'll tell you how actually you're supposed to pronounce my name. It's gonna be so funny because it is hilarious how there's an accent mark in my name. I just
Can
want to point that out. It's just kind
can
of
it
funny.
not be me though? Can you not do this as me as the test dummy? I will mess it up and I will feel terrible because we have known each other for too long, and I still to this day would not be able to do it.
Well, everybody calls me Hector. Everyone just calls me Hector because I think also like Greek mythology, it's some guy that got killed by Achilles. Anyways,
Sure.
but rather be compared to that guy than every cholo in every movie. So it's a fine thing. But yeah, everyone calls me Hector. That's usually what everyone calls me. Technically, that's not how you're supposed to pronounce. That's not how you pronounce my name. Do I care if you call me Hector? No, I frankly don't care because I don't expect everybody to be able to say every single word in the dictionary. So growth. This is the word here, guys. But yeah, Europa Conference League, the semifinals, and that's why when we get to this part of the tournament, we're more comfortable covering it because more than likely it's going to be teams that we're more familiar with, and kind of, and like I would say like 75% is accurate to this to this one. But Kelcey, we'll go right into the Europa Conference League. Um, or I guess before we do that, I because I never really got your opinion
Mhm.
fully from it. Edward obviously is still really just not a fan of this. Um, the table format, your thoughts, and how do you feel about the people that say that because of that format, now when we go into the knockout rounds, it just seems meaningless.
I, how is my question for those that say it's meaningless? Like, how is it meaningless when the final day of the league table was such a fantastic battle? The fact that position 3 through position 26 was viable for the opportunity to move on was an insane thing that I could don't even think they could have dreamed up. Like, we're talking about Man City being one of the teams sitting out looking in at this point in time going into it. I believe there was another squad. PSG might have even been on the outskirts looking in. And by the way, where are they right now? We'll get to that in a minute. But you have an opportunity to showcase a lot more teams on a bigger stage and share a lot more money, hopefully evening out that big five power structure, which I think at the end of the day is their big goal because nobody wants the Super Champions Cup League, whatever they were talking about doing before. Um, so this is, I don't know. I didn't hate the table. I thought the table was fun, but I'll be honest, games 3 through game 6, I could not care less. Like, it was whatever, cool. My attention span is normally already for 3 to 4 league or group matches, but I wasn't prepared for the whole slog of it all. But no, I mean, honestly, it wasn't bad. Obviously, I'm a little biased though. Liverpool
I
coming out
think
one on the table, like that changed it.
playing games in January did throw me off a bit.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
Playing games that matter for the league stage in January was weird.
but yeah, no, I liked this format. I think the format's fine, and I think obviously, like, and obviously Kelsey's referring to the Champions League when he was talking about the
Yeah, yeah,
dramatics on that one, but because I mean, a while back, a few episodes ago, I remember I don't know why I did it, but I went on a spreadsheet and I basically kind of got all the point totals and everything from everybody from the previous Champions League and kind of seeing where everybody would have fallen in line. And I think one of the things that I discovered was the teams that were in the group of death all qualified for the knockout
mhm,
rounds. Despite and I think look, am I a fan of the group stages? Of course. I think the drama that of whatever group you're in, surviving from the group of death, like things like that. That's like it's just elements of the game, and I understand that at the end of all this, money. It's
yeah,
always going to be if you ask why did this happen, money.
yeah,
I told everybody this is essentially the Super League. This is exactly what the Super League wanted. This was the format they wanted to do a giant table. They didn't want to do group stages. The only thing that was different about the Super League versus what what UEFA did with this turn, the way they changed this format, is more than likely just the reason was the exclusivity that the Super League was going to do. The Super League, once again, the reason why everyone was against it completely was that essentially, in some way all these top European clubs created their own MLS, a
yeah.
closed system where no one else can get in, and they get all the money for it. And it's funny how we get Americans get bashed for this league because it's closed, it's weird, it's not. And funny enough, they have a playoff. They're gonna do a playoff after the league's the league stage. So
Yeah.
they and it. I'm not saying that MLS is the right way. I've have a long laundry list of complaints that I have with MLS, and I'm not that's not changing anytime soon. But the reason why UEFA switched over to this format was for one, so that the Super League doesn't keep rearing its ugly head. So this was kind of the reason why, and also in some aspect the big teams are still in it in some way. And I mean, point given, Real Madrid lost 3 games, in the league stage and still found their way into the knockout round. First time in their team's history that they lose 3 Champions League games. So I think that was the other thing that UEFA was doing was trying to keep the big name teams, the teams that people are wanting to watch in these games, um, go. I don't want to say further, but still be in the conversation because I mean, 3 losses for Real Madrid, depending on what group they would have been. We don't know what group that would have been, but second or maybe third
Last.
with elimination. So
D- Goodbye. You're in the Europa League at that point in time.
basically, though I do kind of miss the play-in. The little play-in knockout round that they
I,
did with like the third place teams from Champions League moving on to like Europa League and vice versa to Europa Conference League. But no, I think this is fine. I think this format it's fine.
yeah,
It's not great. It's not. I mean, those decision day, like kind of what Kelcey was referring to, like the decision day was very dramatic. I mean,
yeah,
there was a moment where we thought Manchester City and PSG would have not been in this tournament. So I think that's a fair point, but in reality, yeah, it does matter because if you don't finish in 24th, you're not. There's teams that finished 25th and below that really could tell you, yeah, it kind of does matter what happens where you finish because you want a little piece of the pie, and you're not getting any of that pie further down the road when in Champions League.
yeah, yeah. No, look, I'm looking at just for the point of moving beyond just the Champions League, but even into the Conference League. From the last or first position for the knockout round, so 17th, to the next closest, like the last eligible team for points that could have made it the playoffs, they went all the way down into 31st position in the Conference League. That those guys, if they had won their last match, have the opportunity to be in the knockout stage because they would have been on 7 points as well. And instead, they lose that last match, end on 4 points, don't get advanced. But like that's how close these things are. It's a moment for every team to have an opportunity, and yeah, there are some leagues out here where I'm going to say this is, and some people are going to be like, "What? That's not a big team," but there are big teams that got knocked out of the conference league table because of the new format. Dynamo Minsk, which is Dynamo Zagreb, or not Dynamo Zagreb, but Dynamo. It's another one of the Dynamo teams out of Russia. Everybody knows the Dynamo. There's three of them. You got Zagreb, Minsk, and then God forbid I can't think of the last one. But then you also have Lask, LASK, which is another team that people have recognized. They've been in the Champions League. They've been in the Europa League. Both of those teams got knocked out. They finished bottom five in the entire table. So it's like you have opportunities like that, and then there's a team like Real Betis who is in the finals, who barely snuck themselves into a play-in position in that range between 12 and 17. It's like, okay, well, here we are, but how'd you get here? You snuck your way in. So I like the idea of the table. I do think there's some fixes that could be made going forward, but I think overall for a first rendition of it, not a bad first rendition. It's just now we need to follow up with maybe some small changes like reseeding after that initial knockout.
Oh yeah, the knockout round. We need to do the draws. We got to go back to doing the draws.
Like, don't give me two team options. Just give me get all those seeded teams, get those first eight, let them be seeded, and then you get the next teams that win the knockout, and then you pull for matchups, seeded versus the non-seeded.
I
That's
mean,
great.
even the drawing for home field
Yeah,
advantage was like I was like, I mean, I feel like if you're the higher seeded team, you want to finish that second like being in your
yeah,
home stadium, not the other way around. Um, I mean, obviously that didn't apply for Arsenal when they went against Real Madrid, but I mean, like,
didn't
but
help.
that
It didn't help Liverpool at all, so it's okay.
yeah. So I mean, like, but those are some of the weird things that I like the league table. I'm perfectly fine with the concept of the knockout round. I think they were trying to as best as humanly possible to, I guess, if you can get the second and first seed to go against each other in the
Yeah,
final, I think they were trying to somehow get that to happen. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of I like the drawing. It felt weird having Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid so early in the tournament, just because of that's where they finish and that's where they're gonna go.
yeah.
But I
If
don't
there was a
know.
draw to it, it would have been a little more exciting. But yeah, I mean, like they tried to Americanize it too much. I think you Americanize the league table, cool. You didn't have to Americanize it and make it like March Madness, in the knockout stages. It was fine not doing that. I was like, just let the second eight and the third eight face off and then reseed them all. Like
Yeah,
that would be
exactly,
great.
exactly. But all right, Europa Conference League, the semifinals have concluded. And we'll go with the first one with the first matchup, which was Chelsea beating Djurgården 5-1 on aggregate. And I mean, it wasn't close. Chelsea, all eyes are on Chelsea right now. This is where Chelsea, their season has been going the way it's been going. And it doesn't look like there's necessarily that light. Well, I mean, I think they're still playing for a Champions League position as far as the table goes, because obviously Premier League does have five uh, Champions League spots this year.
Yep.
But Chelsea, I mean, still there's a trophy on the line. I mean, that's something at least for them to finally see something good out of this Todd Bowley era, because I know this Todd Bowley era has been it's been depressing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
it's situation is a situation is all I'm gonna say. But yeah, Chelsea did beat Djurgården 5-1. I mean, like I said, this Chelsea is clearly just the best team in this tournament. I mean, they're literally undefeated.
Yeah.
So
No, they've played well. Honestly, this is one of those ones. Djurgården was one of the teams that just managed to sneak their way through, and I shouldn't say sneak their way because that's almost disingenuous to how well they played. But at the same time, I mean, they weren't the team that was expected to move on in
mhm,
any one of their matchups. At least not since the first knockout round matchup.
mhm.
And feel bad for them. If it's on the other side of the table, there's a potential possibility like they end up matching up with Chelsea in the finals. It just didn't work out that way. But yeah, Chelsea, I mean, absolutely dominant in most of the tournament. Did only lose one to Legia Warsaw, and that was in the quarterfinals. So, but that was in the second leg. They had aggregate 4-2 already, anyways. So it's okay. They're not too concerned about the whole thing. But yeah, Chelsea needs something to play for, and this is the best thing they have to play for right now. So, maybe you're missing the Christian Pulisic days.
Yeah, I doubt that. I
Every Chelsea fan just threw something at their screen right now as they're listening to this.
definitely not that. Look, I like we've said it plenty of times though. COVID Pulisic was unreal. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think that's most
Close
Chelsea
stadium
fans.
Pulisic. Close stadium Pulisic was great.
I think a lot of Chelsea fans, but I think also have said COVID Pulisic was pretty good.
Yeah.
After that, yeah. So
No. I always have to. I have to poke the Bears though. Chelsea. Obviously, no love lost between Liverpool fans and Chelsea fans. So dealt with them enough.
fair enough, man. And then on the other side, we have Real Betis beating Fiorentina. Fiorentina once again heartbreak in the Europa Conference League. This is now their so they've been in the final. They were in the first two finals, and then obviously lost both. They lost to I believe it was Rome. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Jose Mourinho's
Roma.
Roma, and then losing it to Declan Rice before leaving for Arsenal.
Yep.
Um, so at least he got to lift a trophy before anything happened for him. But yeah, so
Fair.
Fiorentina once again heartbreak. But this Real Betis team, man, I mean, 4-3 on aggregate, 2-1 win on the first leg, and then it was a 2-2 draw. Fiorentina once again playing for their lives, trying to finally lift this cup, but they just couldn't do it once again. And Real Betis, I think, such a sneaky good team, man. Like I mean, the players that they have on this roster, um, Johnny Cardozo is obviously the
Yeah.
first name that I think of, being that he's the American. But then also you have Anthony, who has just found his groove back after leaving Manchester United. So, for you Manchester United players, clearly literally the grass is greener, or literally greener because it's Real Betis.
Yeah.
So, and I believe Cucho Hernandez also is in Real Betis.
That sounds correct. I might be wrong though. Yeah, you have me second guessing everything.
I believe that's where he went to. I
Mm,
hope I'm right because this could just make me look like an
I don't
idiot.
think so. I don't think so.
Cucho,
No,
Cucho Hernandez is not with Real Betis.
I don't see him on their roster. Lo Celso is though. Bellerin is.
That's a name. Bellerin. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see Cujo on there at all.
No, yeah, he is in Real Betis.
Oh, I must just not be on their roster, their lineup for the last matchup, or I'm overlooking it.
Is he injured? Anyways, probably not that.
Yeah, it's whatever. No,
Yeah,
I agree with you though. I think Real Betis they got the best out of Anthony after that transfer move. He's playing out of his mind. You mentioned Johnny Cardoso. He's if he's not a Liverpool, or not a Liverpool, but if he's not on the transfer target for a lot of teams going forward, to just be a solid midfielder, he doesn't have to be anything special. I'm thinking like Scott Sinclair style, minus the trying to break David Beckham's ankles.
yeah.
Um,
Cucho was starting.
was he
Well,
starting?
he started last game against for Real Betis. Actually, that's the last game. Anyway, not
Okay.
important.
No, but yeah, so it's one of those things that they're. You also mentioned players they have. By the way, Isco
Isco.
just happens to captain that squad, so shout out Isco. Um, but no, I think this is a situation where that team has found their groove at the right time, and that's the thing with this tournament. That league table is meant to set you up for a potential run in the knockout stage, and that's what you see from Real Betis. It's Fiorentina continues to be that bad luck team when it comes to tournaments. It's been a long time since they had themselves an actual opportunity, not named Conference League, and every Conference League just seems to be disappointing in the end for them. So it's a tough break, but yeah, no, Real Betis on the other end though, it's a team to watch out for, and don't give Anthony a set piece near the box is right what I'm seeing right now. I mean, the amount of times this man has put a shot on goal or on target or threatened a goalkeeper or scored from a free kick at this point in time for in his short Real Betis career is stupid. Like it's not fair. It's like Andrea Pirlo levels of just unfair at times. Um,
Which I mean, I think I do believe Anthony's team is working on trying to make this loan a permanent
well, to be fair, do
move.
you blame him?
So no, I mean, you're going from a very for people to understand Manchester United, especially if you're an American, um, it's like if you play for a New York team.
Yeah,
Like you're going to be heavily criticized no matter what you do. They're the English media is probably up there as like super critical. And I know we said some things about disrespectful, like to CONCACAF players. I don't give a shit at this point. Sorry for cussing, Kelsey. But
I don't care.
but they are also just as critical and disrespectful is probably a good word for them as well toward their own people. I
Yeah,
mean, if we remember the Euro where England was in the final, actually wow, they were okay. They were in the 2020 Euro.
yeah,
In the
yeah,
2020 Euro when you had Saka miss a penalty, I believe Jadon Sancho also missed a
yeah.
penalty as well, and I forgot who was the third person.
Bellingham. Was it Bellingham or was it Trent?
No, I think it was Bellingham. Oh no,
It
Rashford.
was Rashford. Yeah, there you go.
Rashford.
Because it was their three main black players,
Yeah,
and
that's kind of where, unfortunately, that was kind of where it went down to, where,
yeah,
you know,
and yeah, it was a
and,
terrible
and
situation.
even though
And
the South has been having claims, but
hey,
look, that just goes,
England conquered the world. Is all I got to say. They
it
didn't do
just,
it because they
I,
were nice.
I think it just goes back to show you that, like, the world isn't perfect. Like,
Yeah,
people try, and this is, I'm not trying to get political here, obviously, but like, people criticize that this country has all its flaws, but let's be honest, all countries have its flaws. Hell, El Salvador, let's be honest, as much as I love Bukele, might be a dictator. Might be, maybe, probably. He
look,
might
I'm on
be.
a few lists, so I'm going to stop myself from saying anything political. I don't need to add myself to any more lists. I'll say that much. But no, look, to kind of round up
Yeah,
this media thing with Man United, though, I think you're right. You're under a microscope, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch. And I think that's the one thing with all of this, especially when you talk foreign players coming in, they're not used to. A lot of times, like, unless you're Kaká in Brazil, Ronaldinho in Brazil, Kaká in Milan, well, Ronaldinho in Milan, Paris with Ibrahimovic, you don't get a lot of teams where you can't go outside. But with Man United, if you're supposedly a star player, or you're one of their top players or one of their starters
or
regularly,
you just spend a lot of money on a player.
yeah, and you were a big signing, you can't go anywhere. I hate using the goal reference, the movie Goal, but it's very much like they talk about in that movie, where it is you were swarmed nonstop. And, obviously Real Madrid is the place where they were swarmed, but you saw Newcastle, he was fine to go running, he's going to fine to go around, it is very similar with Man
The
United. They are
stakes are
just
just
that.
simply higher. The stakes are
Yeah,
just simply
it
higher.
means more.
Yeah,
They were the number one team in the country until now the new title holders took that away, but that means a lot to United fans.
and they just want to go back to that time period. You
Yeah.
know, if they could just go back in time and stop Jose Mourinho, and stop Sir Alex Ferguson from handing the keys to this Ferrari to David Moyes, I'm sure everybody would go back to that day and put a stop to that and try to talk Fergie to do one last ride
Yeah.
and and keep it
Or
on a loop
found a better coach.
or find a better coach. It's astounding the amount of coaches that have gone through Manchester United, but that's not important. Anyways, but yeah, Anthony just he went into a place where I think the worst part of it all was the fact that Manchester United brings in Ten Hag, right? This guy, the next bright bald mind, and you think that this is gonna work. I believe he was a Pep assistant at one point as well.
Yeah.
Um, as you know, so you see what he did with Ajax, you're like, oh, that's just gonna keep getting better. And then what do? You bring one of the players from that Ajax team. Actually, you brought a few players from that Ajax team, and you're like, okay, they know his tactics, they know how the play is supposed to be done. So you bring in Anthony, which was like a no brainer, go get him kind of guy. It was no one was disagreeing to not get Anthony, which is one of my things that I'm one of my gripes with Manchester United fans because it's like you get mad at your ownership group. Well, obviously this is Glazer's bad, but then you go after the guys that that in on paper you should go after. You went after Ten Hag, you got Ten Hag. You went after Anthony, you got Anthony. You stole Lisandro Martinez from Arsenal. Things like that. You went and got the guys, right? Like they just didn't pan out, and that's the reality of this game too. In any sport, you go and get that high profile player. Maybe not high. Maybe I'm over exaggerating with high profile, but you bring in a player in hopes that they're going to change the dynamic of this team. And I mean, that's exactly what happened with Anthony. Just the pressure, the weight of the pressure of all Manchester United fans hoping for another trophy after, I don't know when was the last time they won a trophy. Um, I know I think it was with Jose Mourinho actually.
It was the FA Cup.
Oh, the FA Cup. Apologies,
Yeah.
yeah. How could I forget?
Yeah, I mean they had a run at the league. What, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, yeah, they did have that, and then they just, I mean, Man
Fell
City was
off a
just,
cliff in February.
yeah, but Man City was also, no one was touching that Man City team.
No, they were
Um,
incredible.
but yeah, anyways, I digress. But now Anthony, he's with Real Betis. I think it's a lot more refreshing. La Liga. I think it's more well suited for him. I think in a technical aspect, and I think once again, it's just a different type of culture. Real Betis is such a from what I've seen, it just seems like a very warm presence over there. Like
Yeah,
guys like Guardado is very much well loved from that club, and I'm sure that's the same thing with guys like Hector Bellerin and why these guys stay with Real Betis for so long. Hell, Isco went from Sevilla to Real Betis. Those are rivals,
yeah.
and they love that guy.
Well,
So,
and
I think it's just a different atmosphere, and you know, you can see that there's no he's playing freely.
yeah,
He's playing like he played when he was with Ajax, and I think you're starting to see him have fun again. He's not getting criticized for doing the little weird ball spin thing that he did that everyone like immediately shut him down. The meme of him doing the people's eyebrow, all those things. All I know, I'm just saying, great comeback story for him, which is funny because I really think of last year when Jadon Sancho went to Borussia Dortmund on loan.
yeah,
He looked he looked a lot fresher. He looked like he was having fun again, and he was a big part of Borussia's Dortmund run to the Champions League final.
yeah, yeah. No, it's always something to mention that some players are just not built to play in England. Some players are meant to play in space. You see it all the time, especially Italian, Spanish, South American players. The English Premier League is not all it's cracked up to be when it comes down to technical ability. There's a lot of strong defenders in the EPL, and guys like Anthony don't necessarily do well when they're constantly being pushed, constantly being touched, constantly being tackled, and allowing him to go somewhere and get that confidence back, get that freedom. And by the way, coached by Manuel Pellegrini of all people, who knows how to allow a player to thrive by themselves. I think it's a situation where he walked in, and as you said, Batiste is what it is. I mean, it's a very fun, caring fan base. They care, but they're not rude about caring.
It's also
You
the
know?
same fan base I think does like the teddy bears, right?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the best franchises I think in the Big
Clubs.
Five. Yeah,
Clubs.
sorry, clubs, franchises, whatever, fan bases. That's what I was actually going for. But in the Big Five European leagues, I think it's one of those teams you just root for at the end of the day, where you just like you can't hate them. Whereas like you can hate a Chelsea, you can hate an Arsenal, you can hate a Liverpool. You can't really hate Real Betis unless you're a Sevilla fan. Like that's pretty much the only team out there that can say they don't like Real Betis.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Um, but yeah, man. So, and that's Real Betis versus Fiorentina.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, we have a final though. There is a final, and it is Chelsea versus Real Betis. I mean, this is honestly everyone knows who I'm rooting for, but
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, Chelsea finished first on the top of the table. Obviously, went undefeated in the league stage. Um, you can kind of say maybe continue that undefeated. Obviously, they technically did lose one game, and that was again in the leg against Legia Warsaw, but still. But their pathway, I think, you would say probably in Chelsea's of a team like Chelsea, you would probably say a very much winnable pathway when they go up against teams like Copenhagen, Legia Warsaw, and Djurgården. Now, I'm not saying that these teams did what they needed to do to get far. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but they did get blown out by Chelsea. So that did happen. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's no getting around that. That was a beatdown. We've seen, no, don't get me wrong, we've seen 7-1 beatdowns before from top teams, but that was still an unfair beatdown.
But yeah, so Chelsea, I think out and out heavy favorite, right? I think have
Yeah.
been first this have been first this whole time, and I don't think anybody. And I think since starting into the knockout round, was viewed as the heavy favorite to win this thing, and playing like the team that is probably the heavy favorite, should be playing. Now you're at the other side. You got Real Betis, and you heard us say all the players that are on Real Betis, very likable players too, by the way, in Real Betis. You're talking about Anthony now kind of having fun again. The quintessential Brazilian play style, right? The free flowing, fun having, not being stressed out by all things, including their own country. Um,
Hmm.
things like that. And he's just having fun. He apparently really like I mean, if you're having your people talking, trying to get a deal done to stay around Betis, it just should tell you how much he loves it being over there when this was just supposed to be a loan.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, Cucho Hernandez, who left MLS to get another shot in Europe, I think, I think is another name to follow, especially if you're a big MLS guy. You're probably trying to see him lift a trophy after also having his run of dominance over with the Columbus Crew. If you're a U.S. supporter, Johnny Cardozo's on the team.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
else? What else is there to be said? Isco probably one of the few players I think no one can hate. I don't think there's as a matter of fact, Edward loved Isco, and as a matter of fact, funny enough, we did a belly up bonus route of players that we like that everyone hates, even though Isco is not on that list. But Edward having to like see this guy every day again, when he had to play against Barcelona, and still love what he was doing, just should tell you how likable Isco is. Also, Edward's probably like not the best example of a fan because Edward has no ill will in his heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
That's a little
ability.
tough.
I wish I could have that. I'm not that person. I'm petty. So
I've literally already made fun of Chelsea, I think 17 times by this point in time already in my short appearance on today's episode. So, yeah, you know that's not possible for me as well.
yeah, I don't know how Edward does it. Maybe it's being a parent.
Must make you nicer. It sure enough didn't make me nicer.
But yeah, Raul Betis. I mean, we can keep listing names of players on that team, and then of all people, Pellegrino is the coach. A coach that I honestly wish his time at Real Madrid was a little bit better. I wish he didn't get fired while he was at Man City. He's generally a good coach, and I think you're seeing it, especially with what his time at Real Betis. So I'm glad that I'm also rooting for that for him as well, as aside from me just not wanting to see Chelsea lift the trophy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, their
No.
pathway, they beat Vitoria, the Portuguese team, uh, Jagiellonia, I think I pronounced that right, and of course
Yeah.
Fiorentina. I think
At this point in time, we just talked about not being able to pronounce things right. I'm not going to judge anybody for not being able to pronounce some of these teams' names. There are far too many accent marks that I have not practiced before in my life.
so. Yeah, but I would say probably like a pretty good pathway. You win against a Portuguese team.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure where they're from. The other team is Jagolonian,
I think it's Finland.
Finland. Okay, and then obviously Fiorentina. Probably I would say a good test for them, especially going into this final. But yeah, man, like how do you feel about this matchup? What do you think is if you're Chelsea, who you're trying to keep quiet, and vice versa for Real Betis, who are they trying to keep quiet over there in Chelsea?
Yeah, I think number one, keeping quiet on for if Chelsea is aiming to keep somebody quiet, they're obviously aiming to keep Anthony quiet. A guy who is 2-1-1 against Chelsea in his career has an assist, does have a yellow card though, by the way, so maybe they can get under his skin. Um, but it's definitely one of those things that you look at as he's the number one, need to stop. There is the alternative path that you go through Isco and slow down Isco, not allowing things to connect, which is a huge play. Is Chelsea that good of a team to be able to do that right now? I don't know. You'd think so, right?
In
That
this
would just
tournament, at least, it
yeah. In
seems.
this tournament, they seem to be, but Real Betis is also playing exceptionally well, and not like any team they've played at this point in time up to this point for Chelsea in this league. On the flip side, Real Betis, it's hard to just like pick one dude, but I feel like it's Mudryk. I think he's just the obvious answer at this point because as he goes, that team goes. Um,
Crazy to
just
think that after so many people have called him a bust.
well,
After
he still could be. I mean, you like it's so hard to tell. He's what 2 3 years, 2 years I think into a starting role with Chelsea. Um, and yeah, it's like a situation where he is so hot and cold. You just don't know what you're going to get from him at times. That's what his problem is in the Premier League as well. Is like you don't know what you're going to get time in and time out. Beyond him, I mean Cole Palmer being the other guy. We all know what Cole Palmer did when he came on the scene, but it almost felt like he's fallen asleep at the wheel, if you will, since then. But at the same time, you never know. He could always pop up at the craziest times. But yeah, I think for me, if you're going to stop anybody in Batiste, it's Anthony. If you're going to stop anybody on Chelsea, that's really going to potentially drive the team forward, it's Mudryk. But then there's a couple options back behind that. It's just if you're Batiste, it's all hands on deck. Like, everybody's got to be behind the ball, or at least 9 out of the 10 field players need to be behind the ball, not counting the goalkeeper, obviously, because it's just going to be a very interesting situation. Obviously, there's still Enzo Fernandez, who I don't even talk about normally, but he's always out there. So, yeah, good luck if you're Real Betis. I'm rooting for you at least.
Yeah, I think obviously the payroll of Chelsea versus Real Betis is probably that's a one hell of a ratio.
Yeah,
But yeah, man, I think at the you make a good point. This is gonna be Chelsea's first like real challenge in the knockout rounds.
yeah,
This is like their first real challenge of because they've had I would say fair to say a very easy pathway. It's literally knocking everybody out, with almost no issues. And you're gonna go against this Real Betis team, a very hungry team, a team that I would say a lot of guys that are looking for that bounce back, right? I mean, you could look at Hector Bellerin's career,
yeah.
Isco, even though Isco, I would say had a good career. It's just the fact that he was always the guy on the bench. He was never the starter for Real Madrid, even though in reality this is the problem when you talk about these big clubs. Same thing for like the teams like Manchester United and Chelsea and all them. You're gonna go get the world's best players, and unfortunately, there's gonna be guys from the world's best players list that someone's gonna have to ride the pony, the pine pony. It just that's the
Somebody
reality.
has to be number 12. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
and unfortunately for Isco, his situation around Madrid. I mean, yeah, look at Modric, in
Well,
your
before
life.
that, he had what Ronaldo, Kaká in his early days with
Yeah, when he
Madrid.
was playing as a winger, yeah,
Yeah, Ozil.
Ozil.
I,
Yeah, so
Benzema was a winger time in and time out. That was when they had Higuain up front.
so Isco, it's not that it just clearly he could start. He's one of those guys that like anywhere else he'd be starting.
Yeah, he's the
How
David Silva of the new age of Spanish midfielders, is what he is.
exactly, and I think him getting his opportunity to be a captain, a leader at Real Betis is very showing. It's funny enough, like the only person that it doesn't have like a little bounce back story is Johnny Cardozo. This guy literally was playing in Brazil, and then gets this opportunity to go to Europe. And I think it's what's funny is that he's American but grew up in Brazil,
Yeah,
and yeah, people probably see his name and probably don't correlate American, which I think he's the bright future of as a six for the U.S. men's national team. And I mean, if I'm sorry, Tyler Adams, but you're just not starting over him. That's why I have such a hard time trying to don Tyler Adams the captain of this team of the U.S. team because I just don't think you're going to start over Johnny Cardozo at this point. I think Cardozo has finally got ahead of you as far as him performing for the U.S. men's national team. I haven't really got to see him play yet because he just gets hurt right when they're about to call him up.
no,
So, but yeah, I think Cardozo and he's already surpassed Tyler Adams, and it's unfortunate, but
yeah,
it's a reality.
it is. And there's one other player on Batiste that I think is worth a mention is Ezzalzouli, the Moroccan forward.
Mm-hmm.
Guy that we've seen on the World Cup stage as a youngster come out and dominate. Well, maybe not dominate, but he played way better than you would have ever expected for him.
Morocco's run was pretty good.
Yeah, so he was a key feature in that at times, and so it's one of those things where you also there's unsung heroes also within Real Betis. You mentioned Johnny Cardoso, as Zuzuli is another one. As you just look at like beyond Anthony, beyond the Iscos, there are other players here. It's not just a squad of two mixed with 9 so fielders like mid or field players. Like they actually have real players, and I'm not saying other teams that have been in this tournament aren't real players. They are. They would beat me 10 out of 10 times, 100 out of 100 times. I'd be embarrassed crying in any other, but it's still a situation where for Chelsea, they can get beat if they overlook the Real Betis squad. Just because there's not 7 high quality names on that other side, there are 10 really decent field players that can be a great squad mix on this Chelsea team easily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough thing for Chelsea to understand is like you have dominated, but you maybe need to check that at the door when you come into this matchup, because if you don't, we've seen it time and time again, especially in the Conference League and Europa League finals. These Spanish teams love to come in, pop an early goal, and then just shut you out the rest of the game. And it happens time and time. Sevilla was one of the most dominant at doing it. I believe a 3-year run of winning. And then I think it was 5 out of 7 years at one point in time for the Europa League. So yeah, Spanish teams in these tournaments, these European tournaments, I don't really want to say they're outclassed by any means. So it'll be a very interesting play. But yeah, there's a lot of players beyond just Cardoso that is worth talking about.
No, yeah, I think that's a fair point to mention for the clash because I mean, Spain has been probably one of the more dominant leagues that have in these European competitions. I mean, obviously, the trophies that come from Real Madrid and Barcelona, Sevilla's dominance in the Europa League. We still haven't. Yeah, obviously, this Europa Conference League is a very young tournament, so you only have had 3 champions. And that being an Italian team, an English team, and a Greek team because remember Olympiacos won it last year. But yeah, I think can we see Spain uh add another thing to their long list of just trophies of and this is kind of where guys like me, Jose, Edward, who are massive La Liga stands, where we tell people in reality, in my opinion, still that La Liga is the best league in the world. I understand that the Premier League has a lot of marketability, has I guess more bigger name teams, but when you see these competitions and you see these La Liga sides go far in the final, go into the final and win the whole thing. I mean, Villarreal beat Manchester United. I just want to point that out again. Yes, it took penalties, but still. It still happened. Like these Spanish teams do win, go far in these tournaments and do win these tournaments pretty frequently. And like I always tell people I get why people like the Premier League more. I don't disagree with it. I totally get it. I get why everyone views it as the best league in the world. And I always start the sentence with I'm biased with La Liga. I'm gonna say La Liga. And I don't know how many people get offended when I do say that when I give them the heads up. I'm just biased to La Liga. I think that La Liga brings a quality that I don't see it very often in the Premier League. Even though the Premier League has such spectacular moments and such amazing play, it's fast, it's exhilarating, all those things, nitty and gritty and all that. I just like the technical ball from La Liga.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that because I think it's worth mentioning. I said it earlier. There are different the big 5 leagues in Europe. They play the game differently. Each one plays it a little differently, and on a neutral stage, which is what the Champions League, which is European Cups, is a more neutral stage. It's a more neutrally refereed stage. You get differing opinions from referees, but they're all relatively close to each other. Versus the Premier League allows a lot more physical play. La Liga allows a lot more advantage to the offense. That they'll be quick with the whistle if it's a defensive foul, but if it's like a potentially offensive foul, they're not gonna call a whistle. Serie A is still kind of a mix of that park the bus style and some free flowing play. and it goes across the board. But when it comes to a neutral standpoint, I think La Liga teams are better prepared for that more neutral style of play where they can play nitty gritty, but they are more than happy to spread you out and just pass the ball around you 10 out of 10 times and win with 1-0 in a very interesting style where, like, the Premier League teams, it's a grinded out situation if they win 1-0. Serie A can also be a grinded out situation for a 1-0 victory. German league, we all know, is a grinding it out situation for that. And then PSG doesn't win 1-0 is the difference for the French league. It's literally just PSG. So that's what makes Spain so different. I don't know if I'd call them the best league, but I think they're the best for a neutral tournament like this. Like, personally, I am still a Serie A fan, despite all my love of strong athletic sport athletes playing against each other. Like, I love the Premier League for that, but I think Serie A to me is that really interesting mix of physical play from Premier League and then the technical play from La Liga that it gives me a little bit more intrigue. I just hate some of the conditions of those stadiums in Serie A. That's the one thing that I hate beyond belief. But you're seeing that in the last couple of years. Italian teams, Spanish teams popping up into finals that are making a name for themselves again after a domination from German teams and from English Premier League teams for so long. So, yeah, I won't go as far as you to say La Liga is the best, but I still agree that there are a lot of good reasons that La Liga has a conversation to be the best league in the world.
Yeah, for sure. But all right, Chelsea, Real Betis. Obviously, everyone knows who I'm going for at this point, but if you guys need me to say it, I am rooting for Real Betis for one reason. Well, two reasons. One, I don't like Chelsea because, unfortunately, I support Arsenal. And then two, I'm a La Liga stan. So, of course, I'm going to be pulling for the La Liga team as long as it's not Barcelona. So, yeah. That's basically where I'm going with. I think Real Betis has a lot of chip on their shoulder. Just in general, chip on their shoulder is probably the best way to sum up Real Betis. I think a lot of these players have so much to prove. It's all the way down to the coach. Have something to prove themselves that they are a quality team, and why not be against one of the biggest clubs? A team that maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, won a Champions League final.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Real Betis. Maybe I'm a little bit biased with it, but I'm picking Real Betis.
I'm also picking Betis. I don't think Chelsea is prepared for what they're about to face. I think they're expecting to come in here and run ruckshot like they had in the last matchup, because it's the only place they've been able to dominate, and they're thinking they're going to continue to dominate that. And I do, from a bias standpoint, I hate seeing Chelsea succeed for any little thing. So, this makes it even more important that they don't succeed. But then also, I think they made the mistake for the last 3 years of just going and getting a lot of big name young players that don't fit their systems, and then just throwing managers out there to say, maybe you'll figure it out. And if you don't, we're firing you before we're getting rid of the player. Because sometimes players just don't mesh with systems. And it feels like Chelsea has forgotten that memo. And they're just throwing anybody out there that they spend money on and just hoping it all works. So for that, from the non-field, on the field reason, I also don't want Chelsea to win. So give me Real Betis as well to win this one. I just think it's going to be a very fun matchup top to bottom. And don't be surprised, Johnny Cardoso on a corner knocked in a header or something like that, just because why not?
America.
Yeah.
Brazilian American. Yeah.
Brazil. Honestly, let's be honest. Brazil's going to claim him real fast and in a hurry if he scores in a conference league. Americans would be like, is he though?
I mean, I don't know how they're looking at the sixth position, but anyways, But all right, moving on from there, we're going to. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at cannadipcbd.com. Once again, bellyup20 at cannadipcbd.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Cannadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. The Europa League and semifinals for the Europa League. Europa League is a little bit
boring.
Yeah, it was kind of boring. I'm sorry. I didn't want to say that, but it's just I don't know, man. This one was like the big teams did go. The teams that were high up went for it. Like there was no real drama. I mean, besides that phenomenal Manchester United Lyon game. Besides that one, I can't really pinpoint another like great matchup, great finish. Because you saw two teams that were just desperately trying to move on to the next round. Manchester United for reasons that they just want to win. They just need a win, and for Olympic Lyon, they just really needed the money. So so that was to me the best match from the Europa League so far. Maybe this final can prove me differently, but the semifinals, Manchester United beat Athletic Club Bilbao 7-1 on aggregate. First leg was a 3-0 win, and the second leg was a 4-1 win for Manchester United. It just wasn't any close, and yeah, as much as like, I just don't know what happened with Athletic Club Bilbao. I really don't know what happened there. They are a very grinded out team. They're very scrappy. And obviously the big thing for them is that Nico Williams is going to leave.
Yeah.
And you kind of which I know they won Copa del Rey. I know they got that trophy not that long ago. But how exciting would it have been to beat a team like I mean obviously we all know about all the drama with Manchester United. We literally just talked about it. But I don't know, man. It's such a bummer, right? Because you're like, if there was a time to take advantage of a team that's down bad, a team that's in a full identity crisis, and you get shellacked by that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know what. Again, this goes into one of those things where Man United is like throwing everything at the wall too, where they're just trying to see who's going to work for them. Mason Mount finally came out of hibernation for a game in their last matchup for that 4-1 win.
I keep forgetting that guy's even on that team.
Yeah, scores 2 goals. Casemiro scored a goal. Rasmus Højlund scored a goal. The guy who doesn't score as a striker scored a goal. Like it's been one of those tournaments for Man United where they just everything's clicking for them. And look, Casemiro's on a 2-game scoring streak in the Europa League. How crazy is that to hear? I have a hard time looking at this and thinking like Man United's going to figure themselves out. But if there's ever a moment where you're like potentially have hope that they can figure it out, it's from a run like this in the Europa League. And obviously, again, for the same reasons I just talked about Chelsea, I don't have hope they do that. But for Man United fans, if you're going to have hope, you hope it starts here in a Europa League where you can figure it out.
How many times are we going to say this? Because they did it also with last year with the FA Cup.
I don't know, because I feel like if there's a equivalent version of what the Dallas Cowboys are in the world, I think Man United fans are the same, where they're just hopelessly optimistic for the same reasons. I speak as a Dallas Cowboys fan, so trust me, I can tell you from experience. It's a lot of the same feelings. It's a lot of the, man, we have all the right pieces. Can we just get over it? Can our managers, can our coaches just figure it out? Like, the answer is always no. The answer is forever no until you figure out what you want to do in the front office. But yeah, like for United so far in this run, it's been a perfect run for them for what they could ask for. After that Lyon game, it seems like they figured it out getting through this tournament. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to pay off here in the final, but I think for now, it seems like all the pieces are working. Bruno Fernandes is looking great. Rasmus Højlund looks good. Casemiro looks good. The pieces look good, but can they stay that way? I don't know. Yeah,
and also Bruno Fernandes is also the only the only positive throughout the year for Manchester United. Crazy to say. Well, no.
I guess you could say Xerxes is also looked pretty good.
I was gonna say that. Ahmad.
Oh, sorry.
Ahmad.
Hmm.
Ahmad Diallo, I think. Ahmad Diallo.
Yeah,
I think I'm saying that right. I don't
that
know.
sounds about right.
But yeah, him. I mean, I know he got injured. I think that was the reason why we didn't see him as much this year. But when he was healthy, man, that kid was good. And he's probably younger than me, so it's fair to say it's fair for me to call him
He
a
did
kid.
make an appearance in the first matchup for sure against Athletic Club Bilbao.
Okay, so he's yeah, I believe he's back to 100%.
Yeah,
But yeah, maybe it's clicking, man. We'll see what happens with Manchester United. I kind of hope so.
it doesn't feel like like you just talked about. Like it feels like every time Man United goes on a streak like this, you're just like, I don't want to say it, but I have to say the words. Maybe they figured it out. It's like it just doesn't end.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
what else do you want me to say at this point? Like, I mean,
know. I said the same thing. That's the thing is like I don't know what else we could say. Like you scratched your head with this team. It's just
I mean, in
nothing
re
makes sense anymore for them.
if it kind of, I guess, sticking with the Dallas Cowboys comparison, like you should be beating a certain team. Okay, well, I don't know how they did last year against the Giants, but like you should beat the Giants. As bad of a dumpster fire that they are, and I guess in some aspect, maybe you should be beating clubs like Athletic Club Bilbao, and well, seeing Kelcey shake his head makes me think that they did not beat the New York Giants.
I think
Um,
they beat them once. I don't think they beat them both games.
All right, well, Manchester United did it on both games. So
Yeah.
if we're gonna look at judging off the Dallas Cowboys, I think progress.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. We'll go with Man United had progress. Maybe the fans were onto something when they were trying to buy the team back. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, Ineos. Okay, this is my last rant about Manchester United. Look, you got your British Prince of Ineos, and clearly it's still not enough. Clearly, it clearly was not the Glazers. As much as I also didn't like the Glazers, but that was because those guys have 100% a very punchable face. But
Yes, yes,
but I told like this is, and it was funny because Edward was quick to also blame the Glazers, and then I was like, but what are they doing that makes you say that they're not good for owner, like they're not good owners? And he's just like, well, the team isn't going well, but they're buying the players you're supposed to buy. Like you're
yeah.
supposed to go after Casemiro, you're supposed to go after Rafael Varane, you're supposed to want Louis Van Gaal.
You're supposed to want Mason Mount. You're supposed to want Jose Mourinho. Yeah, like they did everything right, and then at the same time they did everything wrong. Is what it feels like. I don't know. I'm just going off Man United fans deciding to want to pitch a fit every time and blame it on anybody else other than the performance on the pitch.
like to me that's like baffling to blame the Glazers because like obviously before they moved I believe the Glazers officially now are not maybe not fully bought out, but I think
Yeah, they're at least minority owners now. They're not
they're minority
majority.
owners now, yeah. So Ten Hag was the name. Ten Hag was the name, right? Like I don't want to think I'm crazy or not when I say this, but Ten Hag was the name, right? Like everyone was like, this is the guy, this is the next best coach in the world, right? The Pep Guardiola disciple, which at this point I don't want to hear any more about Pep Guardiola disciples. Um, if you guys know that I like Arsenal, unfortunately, but like oh look what he did with Ajax. Oh yeah, you bring him in, he's gonna be the next best coach. It just didn't work out. I'm sorry, but you also can't be mad at your ownership for at least going after the name that everyone agreed upon. Like it wasn't just like Man U fans. This was like everyone was like, oh yeah, man, Ten Hag, wherever he goes, he's gonna build a dynasty, right? Like that's all we heard, right? That's all we freaking heard about this guy, And then Anthony, he's like the next big Brazilian star of this amazing generation of Brazilian players that I don't know what happened, but they're definitely not good at Brazil right now. But like I just can't, I just can't. And then I was like, Hojlund. I don't know who the hell this kid is, but I think they just want to find their own Viking, like Man City has with Holland. Kind of sounds about the same. Anyways,
Rasmus Højlund was a great signing for any other team than United. United took a old school center forward and put him in a team that needed a mobile guy that runs the channels. That's what they did to Rasmus Højlund. Like, the dude is not a run the channels, get to the wing, play the ball in for somebody else. He is the guy that's in the middle that gets delivered the ball to then score a brace that way. He's not a goal poacher by any means, but he's a box technician is really what we're going to call him. Inside the box, the guy's fantastic. Getting to the box, he can dribble, but you don't need him to.
I feel like you just explained that Manchester United is looking for another Wayne Rooney.
They yes, in a lot of ways they want Wayne Rooney, and there's never going to be another Wayne Rooney. Not right now, at least.
Yeah. Anyways, that there goes my rant about Manchester United. It just at this point, like, who's there to blame? Like, who is there to, Cristiano Ronaldo? He seemed like like everyone thought he was crazy when he did his interview with what's his name?
Piers Morgan.
Piers Morgan. That guy. We all thought it was just a weird interview of Piers Morgan just sucking him off for like the millionth time, but in reality, I mean, he pointed out all the flaws of Manchester United, and everyone called him just an ungrateful old fart. And then, and in reality, funny enough, they looked worse without him. So,
yeah. Oh, by the way, the Glazer family still does own a majority, but okay. Jim Ratcliffe is the stake with 28% of the club right now, so it's not much that they own the majority.
Okay, but yeah, anyway. But still, like, you bring in this, a fellow Man United fan, right? This guy, and I just don't know how much you can blame at this point. That to me, there has to be something wrong with the culture, and I don't know what is the owner going to have to do with the culture?
Yes and no. I think, to your point, what does the owner have to do with the culture? The owner dictates who determines the culture, right?
Yeah.
The owner has that ability to dictate who is determining the culture. Well, the fact is their culture since Sir Alex has left is clinging to the past. That's their culture. Every single thing is like, I remember the days we used to show up in suits and blazers. I remember the days we used to strike fear in the eyes of everybody the moment we walked in the tunnel. I remember the days. I remember the days. I remember the days. The fact is, we're not in those days. If you're United, we're not there. You're not there anymore. You have to understand. You are playing for a Europa League championship. You are hoping to just figure out what's wrong so you can get back to a point of success.
Also, don't look where you guys are at the table.
Yeah, don't look at the table. You guys need to figure out what you want to be, not what you were. Because today's game today, you cannot play the same way they played to get good. There's not going to be another Paul Scholes. There's not going to be another Ryan Giggs. There's not going to be another Park Ji-sung. There's not going to be another Rio Ferdinand. There's not going to be another Ronaldo. There's not going to be another Wayne Rooney. I can go down the list of Man United greats, but I'm not going to waste our time. These guys are one-offs. They are not the general player. You have to understand that this team needs general successful players in today's day and age to fill out the roster. And right now you're looking for gems every single turn. And you don't have a squad that can afford bad gems. You can't get a dull gem. You can't get a 1% diamond here. Like, you can't have that anymore. You need a diamond, or you need a solid lump of coal that you can form into a strong piece of coal. But you don't need crap. Because right now you're getting a lot of potential that turns into crap. Because you don't have culture. You don't have anything to determine what you want. Because you churn out managers every 6 to 8 months at this point in time. Like, I think the average tenure for a manager since Sir Alex has left is maybe close to a year, like 11 months is where they're at. Like, that's, you can't build culture in 11 months. Culture takes winning. Winning takes time, and that they're not affording. It's like, it's embarrassing to watch, but it's not good enough for current Man United fans for that knew the old days. And it's not good enough for an ownership trying to hold on to a successful franchise that is one of the most valuable in the world. And if they can't figure out a way to temper their own expectations a little bit, they're going to be disappointed year after year. And that's where they're at. You're in the Europa League and everybody's just talking about how great the team could be. And it's like, okay, but what are you going to do next year? Like, who are you going to roll out to as your starting 11 next year? Do you even know yet? Because it's time to start figuring that out. You should have probably started figuring that out at match day 30, not match day 36 in the Premier League. Because right now you are behind the eight ball, and your hope is you win a Europa League to get the money to figure that out come June 1.
Yeah.
I think that's my rant for Man United now. I'm good now.
Yeah. But yeah, so Manchester United handles their business against another club, Bilbao. They're moving on to the final. And then the other matchup, Tottenham beating Bodo Glimt 5-1 on aggregate. Yeah. It wasn't close.
Now, Glimp's another one of those teams. They just managed to get their way through. Tottenham is also still a team that you got to be afraid of, at least in these type of tournaments. Not in the Premier League. Definitely not in the Premier League. But at least in these type of tournaments, they are tournament merchants in a lot of ways. So, yeah, they
I don't know about that word.
Hey, they get to a semifinal nearly every time they're in a tournament nowadays. So,
I mean, I can't really say anything right now.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, we'll get to you in a second.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, so Tottenham handled their business. I don't really want to talk about this fucking stupid Tottenham. What's crazy is that they're also like, if not any worse of a situation than Manchester United is right now. Like, Ange is like literally like just coaching for his life at this point. Like, he might get fired. I don't know, just because where they are in the Premier League. But like, I mean, that's a fair question. Does Big Ange does the Australian somehow find a way to keep his life points a little bit longer?
I don't even know, man. This is I don't know what he has enough of in that squad to keep him afloat. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, I think if they can win Europa League, he keeps himself for another year. But I think they're still hurting from that bringing in Richarlison move. As much as Richarlison has been their only offense at times, he has still also been their greatest problem at times. And you spend so much money on him. You don't really have a choice. But yeah, I don't know if he sticks around, but I think if they can manage to pull some victory off here, yeah, there's absolutely an opportunity to keep him around. You have your work cut out for you is the best way I could put that.
Yeah, I think obviously your child, your baby, the guy that everyone believed in, the Chuck artist himself, Harry Kane, finally wins one. Oh, shut up! Go buy the anything's possible shirt. No, it's not me trolling Tottenham in any way possible. That was not the objection of that
No,
shirt.
that would be the Timo Werner moment.
Yeah. Yes, guys. No, that shirt is genuine. That is us celebrating Harry Kane's first trophy, probably his only trophy, but it's a trophy nonetheless. He got one. Now he doesn't have to think about that one trophy he got in the preseason tournament with Tottenham. Like, he got a real one.
You mean the one in America?
Is that the one that they won? No, I thought it was some random.
It was some random one over, I think, in Portugal.
Anyways, but yeah, so Harry Kane leaves. Goes to an ideal situation where he was gonna eventually win a trophy. I mean, it was weird that a team went undefeated in his first year. That was just kind of funny, but I mean, but yeah, he got his trophy. He got his alluded trophy, and Tottenham I guess now in a prime opportunity to win a trophy, an Europa, and not only that, and I guess we'll just say one more thing about Tottenham, and then we'll move to the final.
Okay, one more thing. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do think Tottenham, at least as far as scoring goals, is in a much better place than we just talked about with Man United. Dominic Solanke has been figuring it out. Also, don't forget, Heung-min Son is still on the team. You still have James Maddison as two guys still scoring goals. Believe it or not, Kulusevski has gotten a goal, so he's still playing well. Johnson has gotten a couple goals, so Pedro Porro, of all guys, has scored 2 goals in this tournament. So they have guys scoring, whereas if you looked at Man United's roster, there weren't that many guys with goals. So it's a situation where you from an offensive standpoint, you feel a little better about Tottenham. The problem is their defense is going to be rough. The fact they made it this far with that defense is impressive. But I don't know if it'll hold out against what could potentially roll out for Man United, depending on how healthy or how excited they are to play. I think is the better question. So,
and I mean, if you're Tottenham, honestly, because what Christian Romero, I think he's rumored to be going to Atletico Madrid in the summer.
So, yeah.
Which is there is a bright spot in their defense. That there goes that one. But yeah, I mean, and then a match made in heaven too, of all places, Atletico Madrid with that man, Diego Simeone. That guy just knows how to find dogs, man. I mean, Christian Romero in reality should have left Tottenham years ago.
Oh yeah, he should have been one of the first guys out of Tottenham before Harry Kane, even for that matter.
Yeah. So, but yeah. I mean, yeah. Tottenham went up against Bodo Glimt. Yes, I was hoping that Bodo Glimt could pull an upset, but let's be honest, that wasn't going to happen.
No.
So. But here we are. We're in a final, and it's like the weirdest final ever because both these teams stink in aspects of their league. In the Premier League, both these teams are in complete disarray, and yet they have found themselves in the Europa League final. And here's the thing: both these teams, both Manchester United and Tottenham, are playing for a shot to be in the Champions League next year. That's what's on the line. A team that is not even sniffing Europa Conference League in the league standings have a shot at making the Champions League next year.
Yeah, I'm looking at their table right now. Tottenham is 5 off bottom. Man United 6 off bottom. I don't even want to try to do the math. I believe that's 15th and 14th in the league. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is like this. You remember they still gift the Champions League position to financial fair play teams too.
I've heard this. This is referred to as El Clanico.
I'm gonna need an explanation, sir.
El Clanico.
Oh, there. Okay.
And it's so I saw it was literally they so the meme was where they are on the table, like where they are position wise on the table. And then then there's an image of just two clowns just doing like a little, I guess, like a face off. So
I thought you said Clinico at first, and I was like, that's not a clinic I want to be at.
I know. El Clownico.
Clownico. Fair enough. No, I think it's fair. But I want to go back to the thing we just joked about with Man United, where we've constantly been asking the same question about Tottenham. Okay, well, is this finally the matchup that one of these two teams needs to just like the bad luck will get rubbed off on the other one, and maybe they can finally shake it loose? Personally, I hope not. I hope they continue their misery. But at the same time, you look at this as somebody's got to win. I hope. But yeah, this is wild. I don't know if I've ever seen something like this where you have two bottom 7 teams matching up in a European final in anything. I think
for a chance to get a chance
to get to a league higher in Europe next year. It is a wild situation. It begs the question: should we just be qualifying for Champions League in the summer leading up to the season and not the year before? But I digress.
So I have a dumb question here. So yeah. Premier League, right? We have 5 spots, right, to go to the Champions League.
So, yeah. Yes.
Does Tottenham and Manchester United, would that take away that 5th spot?
Yes.
So Man City could literally just not be in the Champions League. Where are they still 5th?
No, it would be Chelsea could potentially not. But then if Chelsea wins, they also get a nod. So so there's 2 potentials here. I don't know how they're going to take this, because what they had done in the past is if you win a league, then they add another team from your league into the Champions League pool. So right now, with the way the table is set up, if Chelsea wins and let's say Man United win, okay, Chelsea gets a Champions League spot automatically. That would make Nottingham Forest a Champions League team. and that would make Aston Villa a Europa League team potentially, if that's the way they do it. With then also the winner of the Man United Tottenham game also getting a Champions League, because those are automatic bids to the next round. That's, I think, how they, and then what they'd end up doing is taking a position away from a lesser league if there's multiple positions for that league. But there's so many teams, probably not. But yeah, in the past, if a top 5 team won and they automatically qualified some other way, that position moves down one. But I don't know. No, I've never seen it from outside winning the role, what that does. It might actually take it back up. So it might be if Chelsea wins and United win, then it just stays net neutral and Nottingham Forest still goes to the Europa League, which, okay, nothing lost, nothing gained, but
I mean, I would just love that scenario where like that 5th place team just doesn't get to go to the Champions League, even though.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Newcastle sitting at 4th would be the next team, because Chelsea's at 5th, Newcastle's at 4th.
Where's Man City then?
Man City's at 3rd.
Holy hell! What a bounce back for them.
There's a 1 point difference between 3rd and 5th, so there's a possibility they can still slide. But yeah, it is definitely one of those things where you look at it, and Newcastle, if they completely screw this up, Newcastle could be sitting here looking at a Europa League spot and Nottingham Forest getting nothing, and that would be even crazier to think about.
Yeah, Jesus Christ,
that would be unfair because you finish top 4 in the English Premier League and you don't get to go to the Champions League. That would be frustrating.
I think that still happens for them. What was that? There was this one year. It was the Bayern Munich Chelsea Champions League final.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Tottenham, I believe, qualified for Champions League because they had that 4th place spot. Yep. But then Chelsea, because Chelsea was bad that year. I think
they sucked. They were awful. They were like 10th or 9th is what they finished. Chelsea
won the Champions League final, which then took Tottenham out of the Champions League. Because then they had to take that finals. They had to take that 4th spot.
That was when the Premier League had 3 automatic qualifiers and a 4th playoff spot.
Okay.
So that playoff spot went. Here's the problem: is there are 5 automatic qualifiers in the Premier League. No longer are there just 3 or 4. Like normally 4 was the peak, and then a 5th was a playoff spot. So like that's where things get different.
That's interesting.
Is there are 5 auto quals through the Premier League. So if Chelsea wins and United wins, I don't know what happens. I think the world explodes.
I think that's interesting. That's interesting to think about in the future. But yeah, so Manchester United and Tottenham, obviously Manchester United finished in 3rd in the league table in the Europa League, not Premier League. They defeated teams like Real Sociedad, Lyon, Athletic Club Bilbao. So, say what you want, but they went through a gauntlet to get here. Even despite finishing in 3rd. Tottenham finished in 4th. Shocking. They defeated teams like AZ Alkmaar, Eintracht Frankfurt. I'm so disappointed in them. And Bodo Glimt. So definitely the easier pathway was on Tottenham. And I mean, like I already said it, Manchester United versus Lyon, I think that was like the best game in the Europa League this year.
Yes. Maybe second best game in all of the European games this year.
Oh, I mean, there's one game that the one matchup that just topped all of them.
But I think this one is probably second only to that. I mean, realistically, I think that's how good of a matchup that was.
No, yeah, for sure. But I mean, obviously, I think it similar to the Chelsea versus Real Betis, the Europa Conference League final. I'm clearly very much biased towards one side.
I don't know which one it is, honestly, because I know you hate one for one reason, and I know you hate the other for the other reason. I'm actually surprised. I'm going to be surprised whichever way you go, honestly.
I mean, Edward likes Manchester United, so that's not really my deciding factor. I hate Tottenham. I hate Tottenham more than anything else in this world. I hate this team. I despise this team. I hate that this team even exists. I try to be professional whenever the few times that we've had I can't remember his name now.
Mo?
No, Mo's at Chelsea.
That's right. Yeah, he is.
Used to work for Belly Up Fantasy. Apologies because I can't remember. But he supported Tottenham, and he actually confronted me about the whole Tottenham bashing that I do on the occasion. Not the on the occasion. I literally.
To be fair, I I don't care if he's sad that the Tottenham bashing was happening because Arsenal and Tottenham fans do that to each other, just like Liverpool and Everton fans do that to each other, just like United and City fans do that to each other. It's like the nature of the business. So
It is, but also at the end of the day, it's fuck Tottenham. Like more
10
than
out of
anything.
10.
10 out of 10.
Well, 9 out of 10.
10 out of doctors prescribe. 10 out of 10 doctors will prescribe me to say fuck Tottenham. So and I tend to keep that. Sorry for cussing Kelcey. So
I didn't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
but yeah, no, I cannot pick Tottenham. I refuse to see Tottenham win their first trophy. I hope that this drought goes for years and years and years, even to the point where my lineages continue to say fuck Tottenham. So yes, I want them to be just as miserable as I am right now with Arsenal right now. So and I guess Real Madrid technically in some aspect, even though we just got Xabi Alonso, we're gonna get Xabi Alonso, but even though I don't have anything against Ancelotti, actually as a matter of fact, I'm also kind of pissed off that we're moving on from Ancelotti too. Anyways, it's not that important. We're in the Europa League final, and I hate Tottenham, and I'd rather see Manchester United win. And funny, it kind of works out both ways because one, Tottenham loses, and that's always a win for me. But then Manchester United, there's faith in that team, and I think that's even more hilarious because we can build from this, just like that y'all did with the FA Cup.
Yeah. And you did with David Moyes.
Yeah,
And you did when you got Ronaldo back.
and when you got Van Gaal,
Um,
and when you
yeah,
got
look, like I said,
Jose Mourinho,
it's
and you
9
guys,
out of 10. 9 out of 10 times for me that Tottenham it's F Tottenham. This is that 1 out of 10 times that I can't say it because I hate United more than I hate Tottenham.
I mean, you got the Red Derby, so
Yeah. So, look, we just took over the top spot as the best team in England all time. The most historical team now resides in Liverpool. That's right. More championships. Suck it. Anyways, for that matter, I like honestly I like Heung-min Son the most out of either of these two teams. Like if I take their entire rosters and look at them, I have less people I hate on the Tottenham side. So I'm gonna stick with Tottenham on this one. Because I hope Sonny Boy can get himself a trophy. That's what I want. So give me Tottenham.
yeah, he can get a trophy somewhere else. So
That's fair. I mean, he can go to Liverpool. That's cool too. But you know what? If in his current situation, he can have a Europa League trophy at Tottenham
Yeah, I
because
hope
it's
that
still
does.
not the best league.
I really hope that doesn't happen at all. Like I don't care.
You're still mad from what was it 3-4 years ago when Arsenal lost in the Europa League championship?
Yeah, of course it had to be against Chelsea. So, but that's not the only thing I'm pissed off at Arsenal about, anyways, either. But
Fair.
all right, the final European competition and the best European competition. Um, yeah, for obvious reasons. That's of course the Champions League, and we'll start things off with the semifinals, and we're gonna kick it off with literally the best semifinal, best matchup, just period. Best two-leg series between two really good teams. You had I believe second and third place. No, second and fourth place. No, third. Second and third place go at it against each other, which was Inter Milan and Barcelona in a 7-6 uh winning performance by Inter Milan to eliminate Barcelona, which I would probably say before going into the semifinals was the heavy favorite after Liverpool was eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And Inter Milan, which I told everybody, they are no slouch. Do not underestimate this Inter Milan team. They can defend and they can score. This team is very much built for this Champions League, and they were quietly one of the better teams defensively for sure. But what a two-leg series. The first leg was a 3-3 draw, and the second leg was a 4-3 win in extra time. And it's crazy to think somehow we find a way to bring up Manchester United yet again, but Inter Milan got sold Andre Onana for 50 million And their solution to their goalkeeper spot was to get a very much older Jan Sommer to be their goalkeeper. But this isn't just any goalkeeper, Jan Sommer. This is actually the guy that holds the record in the Bundesliga for most saves in a match when he was playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Also, he was facing against Bayern Munich of all teams.
Yeah.
Broke the record for most saves in the Bundesliga. This guy is one of the best keepers in the world. In my opinion, he doesn't get the love and affection that everyone else gets. I mean, he came in when Manuel Neuer got injured and took over that Bayern Munich team, and they didn't necessarily look that bad with him. There was other reasons why that team didn't look that great, but it wasn't him for sure. But comes into Inter Milan, and the job was his. There's no competition for it. It was clearly just his, and he's taken over, and which is funny to think we say about this like fantastic goalkeeper performance, but this guy literally gave up like 3 goals. But
Hmm.
wasn't his fault though. I mean, you're literally going against this Barcelona team, which okay, earmuffs, Edward. Edward, if you're listening to this, earmuffs right now. I don't want you to hear anything that I'm about to say. This Barcelona team is so much fun to watch. Like this is like one of the most entertaining teams I've ever seen from Barcelona's period. I can't believe Hansi Flick somehow figured this out. I can't believe Hansi Flick is the guy to begin with that brought Barcelona back. Like he's using the academy. You know, it's not just Lamine Yamal. Like it's not just Lamine Yamal. It's Corbasi, dog. Once again, Spain, you're set for life at the center back position because you got Corbasi, you got Marco Asensio. Hopefully, Raul Asensio. Hopefully, there's those allegations are gone. Um, and Dean, you got a guy that chose Spain over the Netherlands. Like literally, that the Dean Holzien. Great Spanish jersey. That's all I gotta say. And then obviously you got Lamine Yamal. This kid is 17 years old. I just, this is gonna piss everybody, maybe annoy people when like kind of similar to when everyone kept saying Juan Soto is only 21 years old. But the kid's 17 years old. Already has a Euro under his belt. Has won the Copa del Rey. Barcelona is at least on track to win La Liga. They obviously they did. They're not going to win a Champions League, but in his second year as a professional player, this is like the stuff you do in FIFA, not in real life. And
Yeah.
this 17-year-old, because the thing is that about Lamine Yamal that I just want to point out is it's not like he's just part of the team. He's what the team builds through.
Yeah, he's a heartbeat. It's been amazing to watch what Lamine Yamal has been able to do in such a young period. And I just got off this rant not too long ago about there will not be another version of this player. Man, Lamine Yamal might be the closest thing we've seen to that first coming of Messi, where it was obvious when Messi coming off the bench wearing his number 30 jersey was different. Like you saw Lamine Yamal coming off the bench looking different immediately for Barcelona as a 16, 17-year-old. Now, not that much older, he is still making the biggest impact on the pitch from either team, and every time it's positive. He reminds me of Vinny last year when Vinny was dominating, and every time he touched the ball, you thought magic was going to happen. Jan Sommer, the fact that he stood on his head to prevent Lamine Yamal's shots from going in, there was a couple that would have tucked themselves very nicely in the upper 90s if Jan Sommer had not been on his P's and Q's. That game. I've never seen anything where I'm just riveted to that level of fascination since, I shouldn't say never. I haven't seen it since the Belgium USA game in the 2010 World Cup.
I would go even earlier than that. The last World Cup final.
That's fair. Okay, fair. I still think this was more exciting.
No, yeah, it was still fun. Like I mean, it was literally a back and forth. Like it was Barcelona. Yeah, I think Barcelona was the first one to score, and then
Yeah.
Inter scored, and then Inter took the lead. Then Barcelona got tied it up, then got the lead back. And I mean, Rafinha literally thought he won the game, and it was one of those like he took the shot, he got the rebound, puts it back in the net.
Yeah.
He takes his shirt off, thinks he just won he just clinched Barcelona to be back in the Champions League final, and then Dumfries also. What a performance from Dumfries. I think he has an assist.
Yeah.
I think he had almost like a say in every single play when every single goal that was scored for Inter Milan. But Dumfries finds his opportunity, gets across and gets a little. His teammate gets a tap in and sends it into extra time. And then, at that point, both these teams are just duking it out. I mean, the goal was scored pretty early in extra time, and then Inter Milan does what Inter Milan does, and that is defend, defend, defend. And Jan Sommer does what he does, which is just playing amazing at goalkeeper. Uh,
Defend, defend, defend in a lot of the same ways, right? Look,
so,
you're talking about the best Swiss keeper of all times. Literally holds every record for Swiss goalkeepers at the national team level. He is that good. Um, Switzerland has put out some pretty good goalkeepers. I mean, they're
and Inter got him for 5 million.
yeah for nothing. I mean, talk about. I believe he holds the cap record also for Mönchengladbach. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 270 caps, something like that. I think he holds their cap record in the modern history. It's the dude's a stud. He started and played this many games for a reason, and the reason why Bayern Munich brought him in for 20 games basically was because they knew how good he could be. And you see moments like that, like this, where he's just standing on his head, and you're like, yeah, that's awesome. And what the thing that sucks about all this is he's almost close to retirement age, and we see this with keepers time and time again, where they're like, all right, they're mid to late 30s, and then they have their best game of all time, and then we never see them perform the same way again, which is the sad part about it all. But for Jan Sommer to have that moment was insane, and this game was just outstanding. I mean, 90th plus the game winner. The 99th minute is the or sorry, 90 plus is the tying goal. The 99th minute is the game winning goal. That's insanity. I like part of me hated the whole let's extend this extra time thing, and then a game like this happens and you're in the 99th minute and you're like, okay, never mind, I love it. Give me more of this extra time goal scoring.
And I mean, with Inter Milan, and I know we just spent a good chunk about talking about Barcelona because once again, this is look, and as a Madrista, and this is just me saying this. First of all, the Barcelona fans that say that Real Madridistas only care about Champions Leagues, shut the fuck up. We once again, I don't want to brag about all the trophies because I don't want to be that Real Madrid fan, but Real Madrid also gets. I'm right now pissed off that we're on the cusp of not winning a fucking trophy this year. So like, not even a Super Cup, and I can't believe I'm even willing to want to win that damn thing. But the thing is that La Liga isn't good unless Barcelona and Real Madrid are at their best. It's just that's just the truth. The God honest truth is when these two teams are at their best, that's what the strongest argument that any La Liga stand has is that at the end of the day, your league does not have Real Madrid and it doesn't have Barcelona. That is literally that's like, call me when LeBron James wins 6 championships. Like that's literally like our strongest argument, and we'll hold on to that argument near and dear to us. And when Barcelona is playing with guys from the academy, when these academy players like Kurbasi, like Lamine Yamal, like Martin, like those guys, when they're coming up and playing and living up to the expectations of Barcelona, it just makes sense. And it
Mm-hmm.
goes same thing with Real Madrid. If they're going after and just buying as much humanly possible players to beat the team that builds and develops their players, and of course on the occasion have that one cheeky Barca player that comes and joins Real Madrid. Like that's what makes La Liga La Liga. So as much as I don't like Barcelona, as much as I have a disdain for them because of the rivalry, once again, they're my joker. I need my joker to be you know, be a pain in my ass. So like, as much as I was like, and Kelcey was here for a lot of the great El Clasico moments for me in this podcast, and he heard me like I was like the worst part of it all. Barcelona's back, and the worst part was when Barcelona was down bad. Real Madrid still didn't take full advantage of it because Barcelona still won a championship, despite being as bad as they were. And now Barcelona is fully back. They're back to 1-1 status as far as their finances go. So now they can, whatever that money gets brought into them, they can spend it right back. So if that makes this team even more dangerous when you think about the long run, because this is not going to be this isn't the last time we're going to see Barcelona in a semifinal in the Champions League. Like this team is going to be back in the conversation for more years to come, especially with how Lamine Yamal his projection is going right now for him.
Yeah, yeah, it's only a matter of time. I mean,
And I
it's
like how
probably not.
we were going to talk about Inter Milan, and I just spent another period talking about Barcelona. So
But I'm glad you did because I do think you're right. I think it's probably next season when we see Barcelona again vying for a spot here. But on the inner side, I mean, at what point in time are we going to finally look at Lautaro Martinez as a guy that needs to be feared in European tournaments? Because here he is again. He got the team off to the right start. Obviously, after that, it wasn't that great. But yet again, for Inter, he continues to lead the play. He continues to lead from the front. And I don't know how many more times we can see this where he's setting the tone up front. And if it wasn't for him driving into at the back line time and time again, I honestly don't know if Inter has a leg to stand on in this one. I mean, this team thrives with Martinez up front, and I mean, he's almost an unsung hero in a lot of ways for this Inter Milan team, where you just like people know about him, but do people know about him is the question. And it's like you see what he's able to do, and it's whether it's on a stat line or watching the game, you see his impact, and it's evident and it's noteworthy. And it's just a matter of this team flowing through him. And it's now that they understand that, now that Inzaghi Simeone understands that, it's obvious as the way this team plays. Everything flows into Lautaro Martinez around the box, and it's an impressive thing to see. Whether he scores or he passes off, or he just runs a dummy, any one of those things works out for the best for Inter. And it's been an impressive run for him. And I don't know, as you said, they can defend and they can attack, and that attack is now very focused. And that's the scary thing for Inter. If they're a focused attack, that's a tough thing to stop. If you have to key in on one guy, and there's three other guys out there that can score at any point in time, Marcus Thuram being one of them. Good luck trying to figure that out.
I mean, not only that, but their wing play. I mean, talk about Dumfries. I mean, the guy was. I mean, if
another Ajax player, by the way, Denzel Dumfries.
Exactly, man. Like it's impressive. Yeah. It really is, man. Like this team is just in its own. Like that's why I kept telling people like don't underestimate this Inter Milan team. This team is no slouch. This team is going to do something here, and I think you want to talk about a team with a chip on their shoulder. It's Inter Milan, like just the team itself. Lautaro Martinez, prime example, a guy that wasn't even in last year's Copa America was not even deemed worthy of being a starter for the team, but as soon as his name was called, I mean, literally was the leading goal scorer for the whole tournament. So it's just embedded in these guys' mentality. When you think about the Milan teams, Inter Milan was actually the first team to win a trophy, ending the Juventus run. This was the team that was getting back in their groove, finding their identity again. And they've changed coaches. When Conte left because of the whole financial struggles that Inter Milan was going to be facing, it didn't become a factor. This team has been very strong, even in the Serie A. Like they're one of the standards right now in Italy, despite all the drama that comes into play with them. I mean, some people wrote them off when they, let Andre Onana ship away to Manchester United, and it turned out to be the best business decision they ever made. So this team has a lot to prove to themselves. They were in a final not that long ago in the Champions League. Obviously, they had to go up against Manchester City. But yeah, I think that it's like a good, solid team with the right amount of experience also mixed in. Like this team is everything that you should say is poised to win a Champions League.
Yeah, and by the way, let's not forget that there's just a guy by the name of Matteo De Vrij back there. That is, or sorry, Stefan De Vrij. My bad, not Matteo. Stefan De Vrij, who is still, when it comes to defenders, the guy that you hate to deal with if you're an opposing team. And if he's on your team, you're like, this is pretty nice. Like he's not he was the guy with the Delicts and the Ajax teams that you're just like, that guy's solid on so many different levels. You question how a team like Inter got him at that time. Because at that time, Inter was not Inter today or Inter 10 years ago with Materazzi and all that team. Like, this was a different Inter team, and it was not a successful team, and they got one of the best defenders from that young Ajax team. And that's the part you're just like, you look at it and you're like, man, how is that possible? And you still see him dominating. Now you see him dominating on a European stage. It's been an interesting ride from the defensive standpoint. Obviously, you mentioned Denzel Dumfries, but let's not forget the ability for Dumfries to go forward and attack as well as defend is built by this partner next to him, which is where De Vrij comes in and Acerbi comes in. Acerbi. Anyways, yeah, scored a goal, but also comes in whether he's playing on the wing or playing in the center. You know, there's so many different pieces of that. And then there's still Benjamin Pavard, who somehow is still floating around out there on top tier teams in Italy. And you just continue to watch him go to teams and those teams win. So maybe there's something to say from Benjamin Pavard on the bench. I don't know. Maybe he's a lucky charm.
No, yeah, but yeah, applause to Inter Milan and Barcelona. I mean, that was the best game I think for a lot of people that haven't seen in a long time. I mean, I'm going all the way back um to the World Cup final between France and Argentina. But yeah, this was so I mean, even Thierry Henry said like this was like the first time he actually gave a crap about the sport again. So
it was passionate, and that's the thing. It was free flowing and passionate for once.
I mean, the fact that like you really thought for a moment. Yeah, I have a cat now. Not my cat, my brother's cat. But
I love the sneak in and look. You talking smack about Inter? Nope. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, apparently this cat is an Inter Milan fan. Anyways, yeah, no, this team is just they're just solid, man, and they're a strong team. They have a huge chip on their shoulder. But yeah, like going back to that World Cup final, I mean, it was very much back and forth. You know, France took the lead, Argentina took the lead. It was just always just back and forth with each other. So it was, and it will go down, and the dramatics and all that going to penalties, and all the things that come into the mix. Montiel becoming the hero to score the winning pen, all of that. It was just a dramatic final, and even in this one, the dramatics of every single goal felt like that was the final goal. That was the game winner. Rafinha literally thought he won the thing, and, and then the best part was when Rafinha did score that goal, the Inter Milan fans that exited the stadium thinking it was over, only to find out that Inter Milan just tied it and they could not get back in the stadium. Was the things of like, you're that one Inter Milan fan that like, no, I'm gonna finish this game through, and wow, did it pay off for them?
It's funny because there's always that fan that's like, look, I paid the money for the seats. I'm gonna sit here and enjoy it. And at that point in time, let's be honest, it's not like there was that much time between when Rafinha scored and Acerbi scored in stoppage time. Like, Rafinha scored in the 87th minute. There was 6 minutes from when Rafinha scores to when Acerbi ties it up. And then another 6 minutes for the game winner. And that's like, in a 12-minute span, people were just so fed up. They're like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm leaving. Man, as a sports fan, I'll tell you what, whether or not my team is winning, if I spent money on that ticket and it's been that good of a game to that point, forget getting me out of there before that match. Forget getting me out of there before like 30 minutes after the game finishes. I'm going to be there so enthralled with what I just watched. I'm going to need to sit down to decompress, not walk out of the stadium. So for the fans that left, idiots. But for the fans that stayed, I'm so happy to see that the fans that stayed got to see what they saw from the inner side. For the Barcelona fans, sorry, but for the inner side, like, congratulations for being good fans and sitting around and staying and watching your teams. But yeah, I always find it funny when I hear fans walked out of the stadium and then tried to rush back the gates when their team ties it up to get back in and nobody gets in.
Yeah,
It's
it's the best, but yeah. So we just finished glazing that game, but which was the best game ever. So we'll see what happens.
Look, it's an
But
all-time game. It deserves the glaze.
it deserves it for
It
sure.
deserves its own hot and ready sign. Let's be honest.
It is.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
All right. The final semifinal, which was PSG beating Arsenal 3-1. The first leg was a 1-0 win in London, and then Parc des Princes ends up getting the final 2-1 victory for them to secure their fate. Arsenal, and even though Kelcey was trying to, I think Kelcey on the bonus round was trying to gaslight me. I think that's what the kids are saying these days. When he's like, "Oh yeah, look, Arsenal's on the cusp of being in the Champions League final," and I this team, I'm like, people don't understand. Like, supporting Arsenal is not an easy thing to do. It is, it's just one of those. You talk about like maybe this could be our year. I never ever said that sentence ever in my life. Especially a certain period of Arsenal's time. And Kelcey could also attest to you. I have when things didn't look great with Arteta, I was very quick to say Arteta out. I'm not ashamed
Mm-hmm.
to I'm not ashamed to admit it. The power of friendship was just not something that I was like buying in yet. To be fair though, that those Arsenal rosters were atrocious. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then when you see Saka, comes in and also Kelcey knows I was a very anti Granit Xhaka guy.
Oh, I know. Because I
But
used to poke that bear.
yeah. Anyways, but you bring in Bukayo Saka. His upbringing has just been where I think it all kind of started clicking for me, at least for Arsenal, where it is like, wow, we're not terrible anymore. We just can't win a fucking trophy. That's literally the only thing. And I think Arsenal has come great strides over the years. You have a great center back like Gabriel. Um, you have William Saliba, which right now Arsenal I think are trying to secure him for a long-term contract because Real Madrid's trying to get him, which I would prefer him staying at Arsenal because I think Real Madrid they're doing so many changes that I don't think Saliba's the right guy for that. But even though, let's be honest, that guy's like the best center back right now. The best
He
young
is.
center back.
Yeah.
But the fullbacks, I mean, you can probably intertwine, but I think Timber's been good. Goalkeeper, I
Wait,
don't know.
are you not a fan of Lewis Kelly?
No, I love Lewis Kelly.
Oh, okay. Hold on. You said the fullbacks, whatever, and I was like, hold
No, no,
on.
no, no. I'm like,
Pause for a second.
it's just been so madly inconsistent over the years where it's been like,
Yeah.
there was one point where someone made me believe in Tomiyasu. Like it's just, but he's not terrible. He just can't stay healthy.
I was gonna say, hold on now. He is a solid player, but he's not an exceptional player, but he's a solid player.
He's good. He just can't. He just doesn't stay healthy. I mean, coming off the bench, he's great.
Yeah.
But no, you got Luis Skelly, who I think has really lived up, has really stepped up. Um, Timber, when he's healthy, he's actually really good. Which we're seeing that right now because he's healthy. Look, I'm not sold on Raya. I'm really not. I know there's some people that do like him. Maybe it's just because like I was really believing in what's his name, Ramsdale.
Mm.
And I don't think I don't think they're any better. I think they're basically carbon copies of each other. So,
Mm.
but I mean, David Raya isn't terrible, is what I'm saying. He's not terrible, but I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't be mad if a certain world class goalkeeper just became available, and I'm like, let's go get that guy. You know, is all I'm saying.
Oh, I mean, Neto is not that world class goalkeeper for you guys.
Okay. Also, I hate the fact that Chesney's winning trophies, and I've hated that guy for so many years.
Oh man, I don't think I've ever got that type of reaction from you before.
At midfield, I mean Declan Rice. I think he's a good player, solid, maybe a bit overpriced, but I mean the guy did score 2 free kicks, um, in the same game.
And never again.
The criticism for Odegaard. Okay, this is okay. I'm gonna defend Odegaard because I just don't think people understand what Odegaard is. Odegaard is gonna be a pass first guy.
Yes.
That's just what he's embedded. That's in his DNA. He's not gonna take the shot.
No.
Does he need to learn how to take the shot? Yes. Because
No.
he had so many opportunities. Okay, maybe not so many, but he had a lot of crucial opportunities where he could have just put one in the back of the net, or at least attempted to put one in the back of the net instead of just pass. Because the most infuriating thing of this whole thing was they were on the final third. They just needed to just have someone take a shot, and no one took a shot. Honestly, this PSG game could have easily have been a win for Arsenal. But it didn't because they didn't take the risk. No one took the risk of taking the shot because unfortunately we don't have a fucking 9.
That is very true.
Like Saka was great, and yeah, Saka the second shot attempt that after he scored the goal, and then it looked like it would have been a really easy tapper. He didn't make it, but and I think unfortunately like. And I don't like to me. I don't expect Saka to score goals. I expect him to create opportunities. If he can score some goals, I mean that's great as well. All in all, Martinelli. I mean, I don't think he's terrible. I think he's really good, even though a lot of Arsenal fans don't tend to like him too much. It's just you guys are trying to get me to buy in that Mikel Merino could play the 9. You guys are trying to tell me that Havertz can play the 9. These guys are not 9s. They're not. Like Havertz would essentially, if you guys wanted Havertz so bad, he would be starting over Odegaard. Marino should be in the midfield. He is a midfielder. That's literally what he was in Real Sociedad. You guys don't have a fucking 9. That's like the one thing that all Arsenal fans have been hoping for every single transfer window. The January transfer is this where we're gonna finally get Isak. All these things I've been hearing every single year. Oh yeah, we're gonna go get somebody. We're gonna get somebody, and you don't get anybody. This is where the games where you needed it, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen. So that's why Arsenal didn't beat PSG. And everyone's like, oh, they have all the momentum. They beat Real Madrid. This was a team that you needed to have a 9. You could beat Real Madrid without a 9.
Yeah.
Hell,
No,
Barcelona showed you how to do it.
Look, you guys shipped out your 9s, what, 4 years ago? 3 years ago?
You think
Gabriel
about
Jesus?
Giroud?
No, Gabriel Jesus is the last one. Well, yeah.
He tore his ACL, so.
But still, I mean, like, you shipped him out and didn't replace him. And that's the problem. Is like you can ship him out, but you got to replace him. Kai Havertz is an interesting piece, obviously being the injury situation right now, what it is.
It's not like, but he wasn't like he was like blasting goals when he was healthy.
No, but he's instrumental in the creation of goals. But I think the one thing with Odegaard that everybody forgets is the guy was never supposed to be the next Ronaldo. He was never supposed to be the next Messi. He came in and the conversation around him was always he'll be the next Iniesta or Xavi. He'll be the Norwegian Iniesta or Xavi, which if anybody's watched them play, what do they do in the box when there's a shot opportunity? They don't take the shot until the very end of their career when they finally, after 14 years of playing with Barcelona, got comfortable taking shots. Like, these guys were brought in. Odegaard was brought into Real Madrid as a youngster to learn how to accelerate his passing ability, and he does that exceptionally well. He links play very well. I hate when he plays out wide. I'll be honest about that. I still don't like it. I get why they have him out there, but without a link up partner with him, and not that Saka isn't that link up partner, but I feel like he's missing another link, as you mentioned, a 9. I say maybe even another Cam Lamb Ram situation there. Somebody to play up close with him. Martinelli sits out on the wing and he puts his boots on the touchline and you don't see him for the rest of the game. And you need something else. You need something in between. You need a guy to make that gap work. The fact it's Declan Rice bothers me to no end for Arsenal, because Declan Rice isn't that guy historically. He plays as a hinged midfielder, so he can go both ways, but he should not be on the front foot every time. That's just always been my problem with the way that Arteta has him playing. And that's where Kai Havertz came in, is he linked that play really well as that other option, and he'd play as a false 9, allowing Martinelli to make those runs in, which allowed Martinelli to look a lot better. It also allowed Saka to slide in behind and attack in between the outside back and center back, instead of just attacking the outside back, which is where he's left to stick right now when you have Marino pretty much taking up the entire middle of the field, because he doesn't really know how to play that position as well as he would a midfield position. And that's like, Arteta's doing fine. This is the most opportunity Arsenal has gotten to try to win a trophy at any point in time over the last 3 years. But it does feel like there's something missing at the end of the day. And as you said, I agree that it's either a 9 or maybe a change in formation that allows you to have a false 9 that can allow your outside wingers to take attacks inside. Attack at the center backs. It's rough.
It's just crazy to think that you could have kept Aubameyang.
That is going back there, man.
Like, I'm just saying, like, this is one of those scenarios. This is one of those cases where
I think Lacazette would have been a better keep than a Aubameyang, honestly.
No, you're right on that part, but like
if you want a 9, Lacazette was the better 9.
Yeah, but I mean, Aubameyang was the one that put him in the back of the net. At the end of the day, I mean, they did call him Lacazette. As much as I did love Lacazette, like I have his kit for crying out loud, but they did call him Lacazette goals.
In Arsenal was the only place he didn't score goals.
Yeah,
that's the problem. It was at Arsenal, and that's, I think, a little bit more on the Arsenal problem. I also think maybe he wasn't necessarily built for the English Premier League.
You're right, but yeah, Arsenal, the big Achilles heel was just no one was taking shots.
Yeah.
They built the play up. They had their opportunities, just nobody took them.
It was a flashback to Arsene Wenger's Arsenal at times.
Yeah,
that extra pass that you didn't need to make. Why are we doing that? There's a reason Raheem Sterling isn't seeing the pitch. It's not because he couldn't score a goal. It's because he would be the same guy making those extra passes too. He's lost all confidence from where he once was. So that's also part of his problem. So it's not like he would help either.
No,
because Chelsea did usually use him as a false
nine. And I got so much flack for saying that Arsenal didn't do anything in the transfer window. When in the summer transfer window, I was like, okay, you got Raheem Sterling. I'm not impressed by this move. This is a terrible move. This was not what you needed to go get. And everyone was just like, he's going to be beneficial in the attack. For who? Because, I mean, like, you already have Martinelli or whoever you want to put on the left side. And then on the right side, you have Saka. So, like, who was he going to play in? What position what spot on the field was he going to play? Sure as hell not going to be the 9. They played him at fullback this year. Like, just let that sink in. And so, like, yeah, there's still some things this team could build up. Like, they just need to get a 9. Like,
yeah. And this, like, you have a great core of that team. Thomas Partey as the CDM is a fantastic CDM. Declan in front of him, along with Odegaard, makes a great midfield trio if you have them organized correctly. But you need that link, whether it be a holding 9 or a false 9. You need the link to allow your wingers to play to their best abilities. And that's, gosh, I don't know who they go get. If anybody asks me who you go get, I don't have an answer for you. Maybe Rodrigo or something, but he's still a winger too. So like, I don't know what your real answer is here.
And unfortunately, that's the rumor is Rodrigo.
Heck, Rasmus Holland would be a good option for that holding 9 situation.
I think it's like a weird combination. Like, so if you do go get Rodrigo, I think that's GG's for Martinelli, personally.
Yeah.
Which
I always
is
wonder
kind of
with
funny
Martinelli?
to think about it. You swap one of my adopted kids for another one of my adopted kids, but
Both Brazilian, by the way.
both Brazilian. But
With Martinelli, I always wonder, would he have been more beneficial to slide inside and play as a out and outright striker? Because I still feel like he takes the winger thing.
It's not a bad idea for him.
Like, I just feel like he takes as a winger, he takes that to heart too much, and he's good with his feet, so he can play that false 9 role and link. We know he can do it. We know he can pass. We also know he can score, and he's good in the air. It's like one of those things you just look at it on paper. Is like, is he just determined to be a winger, or is he just a guy that they've never actually asked, hey, will you slide inside and play midfield or play in the middle of the pitch as a false 9? Because I think he could excel at that role, similar to what they did with Gareth Bell at Madrid at times, where he slid into that false 9 role in a lot of cases. Granted, he played a little more in the channels, but still, it could be something that would, for Martinelli.
Let me get this cat out. Keep talking.
No, I'll say with Martinelli, it just could be the thing that takes him from meh to a long-term maybe success. I just have a hard time thinking like what the Arsenal can do with this current team to make their team successful long-term, other than if Havertz steps into a false 9, or other than, if you slide somebody like Martinelli in as a false 9. Because right now the answer is not keep running a 4-3-3 with no link-up play. So I don't know what the distinct answer is, but there's no answer currently in the team, and you just got to figure that out if you're Arteta. I don't think he goes yet. I will say that much, though. I know, Hector,
No.
you were quick to say it before, but I still think he's earned enough to keep around for at least another season.
There's no way you can sack Arteta. Yeah. Like, look, the Arsenal is not okay. So, just for a prime example, Arsenal is not Real Madrid. Real Madrid will fire somebody for not winning getting eliminated in the semifinal. Real Madrid will fire somebody for not winning La Liga. Real Madrid will fire somebody for not winning Copa del Rey.
Let's even go shorter, and Real Madrid will fire somebody for not beating Rayo Vallecano, or Valencia. Yeah, like insert team here who is not a top 10 team in La Liga.
Yeah. So that in its own way, there's levels to it, and it's kind of funny because when you think of Arsenal Fan TV, which is literally the only thing that makes Arsenal any remotely viral, is because Arsenal Fan TV, the meltdowns are, they're pretty hilarious. And I think about when Robbie was interviewing, what's his name? Ty. I think that's Ty, the guy the little skinny dude who was just like adamant that Arsenal was a bigger club than Real Madrid. And Robbie the whole time was just like, no, Real Madrid is pretty big. Like they've won the most titles in Champions League history. And he's like, what did they do in 1902? I thought that was something like, bro, you weren't even thought of in 1902. I don't know.
I believe Real Madrid won the league in 1902.
Safe to assume. But
there is a 50% chance I'm wrong.
But no, yeah. The thing is with Arsenal is just, once again, this is still like. But okay, I'm gonna ask this question because I at this point I don't know what else to think about. How much longer can we use the excuse, oh, this is a young team? Because Barcelona is a pretty young team, and look what they did.
I think there are two different youngs, and I think this is important to point out. I think Arsenal's young is more down to experience, whereas Barcelona's young is just down to the number on their birth certificate. Because nobody that comes out of La Masia is ever somebody who I would ever call young when it comes to experience. They come out of that program, the training program, ready to battle anybody on a first team basis. If they have graduated from La Masia into the first team of Barcelona, they are ready to go. Versus Arsenal, these guys are young by age, but also by experience. Like, that's the one thing is these guys aren't necessarily coming out of the biggest, brightest lights. Odegaard is obviously the biggest and brightest of those lights from where he came from. Everybody else kind of worked their way into this position at a relatively young age. I mean, they're still young for footballers across the board, but it's not young. Whereas it's more just down to lack of experience. So I think you can say it through this season, maybe into next, but I feel like after this season is really where you start to question whether they're actually young experience-wise versus Barcelona is just a young age team, but they are very experienced for their young age. So it's two different youngs in my opinion, and that's what's hard about this conversation is with Arsenal, like, when do you dictate it's enough experience? When you get to a semifinal of a Champions League, that feels like a pretty good marker for like you can't be considered young for experience anymore. Like you've done it, you've gotten close, you've competed in the EPL really well, 2 years in a row. Like, okay, maybe we could talk about this team being fully experienced and no longer being young next year.
Yeah, I think I agree to that notion. I think this is like the last year you can use that excuse. Go get a 9.
Yeah.
At this point, go get a 9, and let's see what this team could do. An experienced 9. I think that's important. I don't think like the kid from Sporting, like as good as he is, I just don't think he's the guy for Arsenal situation.
Yeah.
But do I think he's gonna be good? I really do. I just don't think Arsenal's the right place for him. But that's just my opinion on that one. But I guess we got to talk about the other team though that eliminated Arsenal, which is PSG. Who
do we have to?
Yeah, we kind of do. But this team is humming. I think this team has been very good. I mean, their run to the final has been pretty impressive as well. But PSG, yeah, things are clicking for them. This team looks very much like a team. Like I think the real person to look at to thank for all this is Luis Enrique. Me and Edward, we talked about it when we were talking about like the final stretch of matches for all the leagues, but Luis Enrique just, I don't think we gave him enough flowers. I mean, he was the last coach to win a treble with Barcelona, and was part of that epic was the coach, I believe, for that big comeback against PSG, as a matter of fact. And the guy's a good coach. I mean, he won the Euro with Spain, and now he's here with PSG, and he looks like a very much a good coach.
Yeah, it's hard.
Wait, was he the coach for the Euro?
I believe he was Luis Enrique.
Yeah,
I believe so. I might be wrong though. Hang on. Um, 2020, 2022, Spain. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah. He was their Euros coach. No, he as far as a manager goes, he's changed what PSG looks like. Obviously, losing Mbappe, you knew there was going to be changes. But we talked about this last year before Mbappe left PSG. It almost felt like there were times when he wasn't on the pitch that this team looked better. And this year, Paris looked better as a team, as a whole team, without having Mbappe on the pitch. And that feels blasphemous, just saying it out loud. But after seeing what Real Madrid did with Mbappe on the pitch, you're kind of like, oh, maybe there's something to this. And what Luis Enrique was able to do as far as build a cohesive unit going forward, I think that was successful and why they were so good this year. I mean, what they were able to do this Champions League run, obviously they're going to do what they do in Ligue 1, but in Europe is where PSG really cuts their teeth. And in Europe this year, they have beaten some of the top teams to get there. And it's been a situation where you're like, man, I don't know what this team's ready to do to us, but they're going to do something, and then they're either going to grind you out. I jokingly said earlier, PSG doesn't win 1-0 games. Well, they won 1-0 game this season, and that was against Liverpool, which helped them progress further into the tournament in that first round. And it's a situation where they had to fight to get in to the knockout stage. And then when they were in the knockout stage, it clicked for him. It was correct. And now here they are in another Champions League final. But this time it's different than the other PSG teams because this PSG team does feel like they can do anything to get a victory. They don't just have to just attack like the old teams did. This team feels like they can grind it out and, pip a goal out of nowhere or go and score 3 goals while the other team scores 2. It feels like that type of PSG team where they can go either way. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride for Luis Enrique now that he's at PSG and 3 years into his job, 2.5 years into his job. It's pretty good run so far.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think once again, props to Luis Enrique. I think weirdly enough, I think it is the fact that Mbappe's gone. I think this team looks so much better without Mbappe, which is crazy to think that this team dominated Ligue 1. But I mean, obviously, we said what we said about this team when they were talking about when they were undefeated. It's not necessarily for them. I guess not a very impressive feat when we were talking about Ligue 1, but still a really good team, really strong nucleus. I mean, people are giving shouts to Ousmane Dembele to be potentially the Ballon d'Or winner. I don't know about that, but I mean,
it feels a little too much, but all right.
But I mean, also the guys that are on this team, Fabian Ruiz scores his first Champions League goal. A guy that's been has been years playing for Napoli, and is now has made the move to PSG, and he's looked really good. Marquinhos, that guy's stayed put at PSG, and I believe he's just now a staple on that team. Donnarumma, I mean, this is his villain arc, right? The guy leaving his boyhood club of AC Milan for the money, and now had probably undoubtedly a very solid performance for a goalkeeper against Arsenal. Obviously, it's not Jan Sommer levels, but still a very impressive performance on his part. Once he finally did become the PSG goalkeeper, because obviously he was kind of competing with Keylor Navas for a while, but this is now his job. And then uh, Duje, the
yeah, Desiree Duje, number 14. He's the striker. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, no one knew about this guy.
Yeah.
And they put him on the lineup one day and they're like, all right, I guess this is our guy. And then of course we can't forget about the Georgian Messi.
I'm ready for this one.
Not gonna try.
I used to have this down, and I don't know if I can do it again. So I'm not gonna try either.
Let me see. I'll try.
I can say this much. I can say Kvichka. That's his first name. Kvichka Kvaratskhelia, I think is what it is. Kvichka Kvaratskhelia is, I think, how you say it.
Kvichka. Yeah, that's a name. Let me see is there a phonetic?
I don't know. I want the phonetics.
The phonetic doesn't help.
Yeah,
anyways,
I think it's Kvichka Kvaratskhelia.
Kvaratskhelia, I think that's what I've heard. Yeah, Kvaratskhelia, who told Napoli, "I want out of here," and he said, "I don't I don't care what it takes, but get me out of here." Goes to PSG. Everybody called him an idiot to go to PSG. He's like, "You're not gonna win anything there," and since coming over has been such a crucial piece of this team. The dude's a dog. The guy fights guy fights every day like he's still in Georgia. The country, not the state. But yeah, I think that this team is just they're just clicking at the right time. I mean, Vitinha is another good player on that team. Yeah,
Barcola is still a talented player.
I hate Barcola, but he's really good. Yeah. And I say that out of respect. But
I mean, you also left out Hakimi and Kimpembe, who by themselves are fantastic.
And Hakimi
defenders.
was important in that match against Arsenal. He did a really good job, and obviously also bag a goal himself. Yeah, I think he bagged the winner.
Sounds correct.
I think he bagged the winner. But
well, then you also have Lucas on the other side, Lucas Hernandez. So This team is full of studs. Like PSG doesn't slouch when it comes to having their own studs.
Also, mostly French.
French, Italian, yeah. Couple of things dropped in between, but
I only point that out because there's not many teams that from their home league have players from that home nation.
yeah, the closest I think is Bayern in Germany, or most German teams are mostly German.
Yeah, well, that's because of rules that they have put in place. But
Yeah.
I mean, like Real Madrid,
yeah.
I think there's like one Spanish guy on the team, and that was Asensio.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, so
they got like 7 backing up everybody, but they just come along just to meet their squad requirements.
Yeah. So yeah,
they're kids from the training grounds.
Look at Inter Milan. I think there's some Italian players on.
There's like 3 Italian players that play on that team, and that's it.
So yeah, there you go. But yeah, PSG they've just been it just clicked for them after they were able to get in that final into that knockout playing round. I forgot who they had to beat in the play. Actually, they beat the crap out of Lille. As soon as they did that, they were like, "All right, we good. We got this."
Yeah, they smashed Lille.
They're like, "All right, guys, we know who we are. Let's start winning some games."
It is so true though. That PSG team, it's just like they flipped the switch at the right time, and you always talk about good teams being able to flip a switch. It takes time sometimes with these, especially in football, where you have guys coming in and out of rosters year after year after year, and even more so every 6 months. It gets even crazier. I mean, we just talked about Kavicka coming in. He was one of the late transfers out of the summer transfer window as well, where he came in and it was kind of a shock. Last minute deal almost in a lot of ways that he ends up at PSG. We knew he was leaving, but we didn't know where he was going to be. And for that to happen the way it did, and he came in, and it did take some time to integrate him. But once he was integrated is when you saw PSG turn it around in the Champions League level, where they were able to attack, they were able to do things. And you saw Ousmane Dembele pick it back up. You saw these guys, Vitinha, they started playing off each other at a different level that they had previously. So this PSG team is no joke. For their own right. And that's what's scary is they might have just gotten better when they needed to at the end of the season. And that's good luck everybody else. It's kind of how that ends up at.
Yeah, and I mean we can go right into the final now for that because Inter Milan versus PSG. You got Inter Milan who was third place, argued to be one of these stronger teams in this Champions League. I mean, their path here to the final was they beat Feyenoord, who had a lot of confidence because they just beat AC Milan. You beat Bayern Munich in one of the most dramatic, quarterfinal matchups there, where you got Bayern Munich players smacking a ball boy from Italy, and then you go into the best matchup. Now, I will say this: I'll ask this question right now, and we've seen this happen in a lot of sports where they had a strong semifinal.
Mm-hmm.
Does that take a lot of gas out of this team? Like they just hit, like you're talking about like a pinnacle of a celebration right now, right? You beat Barcelona. They're making the comparisons of the last time, back in 2010 when Inter Milan won the last time. They beat Barcelona to make it to the final. Like, did they use up too much energy right now where now it feels like that Champions League final is just not the final to them? Like this was their final.
I believe wasn't 2010 the Wesley Sneijder year. Was that correct? Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Random thought. I remember that stupid tape wristband he wore. Anyways, in this situation, I don't know if it matters as much. It does happen a lot in tournaments where you have a semifinal, a huge win, a huge comeback, a huge victory like that, a really emotional victory. You kind of dump it all right there. Why I say this one, I don't know if it matters, is there are 3 weeks between that game and the championship, the final. Like that's a long time to get recovered and get healthy and get ready to go and get mentally right. If this was a week later or 2 weeks like it had been previously, I think my answer changes. But that extra week, I think, is a really big week because most of these teams, well, both of these teams in PSG and Inter's position. They have their league pretty well locked down. I believe Inter's 6 points clear, if I'm not mistaken. And
They just haven't clinched yet because I think them and Napoli.
yeah, I think there's 6 and 2 game and like there's 3 games remaining, so they just have to win
One more.
one. And they're clear. But yeah, it's and PSG is PSG at the end of the day. I think they're very well clear, if not clinched already. But you don't have to worry about wasting a lot of your energy going into the league as well after all of that. And that's the other piece of this is like with soccer, with football, you have to worry about midweek games. You have to worry about those season games.
Actually, Inter is 3 points behind Napoli, who's in first.
Okay, there you go. So then they might compete to try to get a double. I believe a triple, actually, a treble this year, because I do believe they won the Italian Supercoppa. But
no, they did not win the Supercoppa.
Then all right, we're good. Then maybe they don't. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just put it all in the Champions League. We'll see. But yeah, I for the purpose of your question, does the emotional win in the semifinals impact this final? I don't think as much as it could have. It had been the old regulation, where it's 2 weeks, maybe even a week and a half in some cases. So I think this will be less impactful. But I do understand where you're coming from, and I still think you'll see a couple sea legs 15 minutes in. But I think that'll go away, basically that 20-minute mark in the match. I just don't see it going too much longer than that. So,
okay, no, I get that, and I agree with the whole like you actually have like a bigger, more time to actually get mentally prepared for that final. So I think that does make it different,
and more games in between too. And I think if you want to knock, it's essentially knocking the rust off for a lot of guys, getting the cobwebs out. They have a couple league games to get those cobwebs out.
Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you got PSG, who finished 15th place. They had obviously the playing game where they beat the crap out of Lille. Then they go up against first place Liverpool, and upset them. And then you go to Aston Villa, which, look, am I happy that Aston Villa went as far as they did? Yeah, mainly because I'm a Debo fan, but at the same time, you just kind of felt like maybe these guys are maybe going up against a little bit above their weight class here.
Hey, top 8 team in the league table.
And yeah, and that's why I want to give them their flowers. Still want to give them their flowers.
Hard to say that like they had a better first half of the season Champions League wise than PSG did. That's what the wild thing is.
Exactly. And still, PSG, was like, all right, yeah, you guys are pretty good, but we're moving on. And then obviously they beat Arsenal. And I do love that Luis Enrique was like, oh, I thought we were the farmers. We played in the Farmers League. Like, I love that response. I was like,
I mean, they do.
You just beat three Premier League teams, and he's just like, yeah, I guess winning the Farmers League isn't as bad as people think.
No, they play in the Farm League, like the developmental league. Absolutely. The difference is PSG has the funds to buy world class players versus.
I think one of the biggest
you don't see Lille doing that.
The biggest issue that many people have with PSG is just that you don't have competition in your league where because like you for argument's sake, right? Like Inter Milan, Napoli, and the other Milan, AC Milan, Juventus. You could say that those are teams that they have to not scoff against.
Fiorentina as well.
Yeah, in Premier League, obviously we already know. The big six, big five technically. If you one team probably doesn't deserve to be there. I'll let you guys guess which one I think that one is.
Chelsea.
I mean, once again, Barcelona and Real Madrid have each other. Plus, Atletico Madrid always ends up, hurting somebody at some point. And then even in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich has Borussia Dortmund and now Bayer Leverkusen and Hoffenheim for some weird occasion.
And Mönchengladbach occasionally pops up there.
They're coming back up. They're coming back up, which I'll give them that one.
And Wolfsburg always pops up there as well too.
I mean, also don't forget about Leipzig, but there's teams that clearly you compete with in Liga. And look, I think maybe we need to be more respectful for Liga 1 because obviously Marseille is still a really good team. despite all, for, I don't know if you noticed, there's been a lot of drama between De Zerbi and I guess Greenwood.
Yeah, I mean that checks out. It's Mason Greenwood. Do we expect anything different?
Yeah, I don't know. People think people think I hate on Greenwood, even though I never said he was a bad player. I just he's accused of something really bad. But
Yeah, he has a terrible human to him. That is exactly what it is. Like not a great human. So it doesn't surprise me that somebody hates him for being a human, for
yeah,
being his type of human.
yeah. Anyways, but yeah. So like aside from that, the competition PSG has Marseille. Yes, they can be a thorn a little bit. Lyon clearly going through a whole financial crisis where they might get relegated if they don't figure it out. Um,
Lil, Nance,
Lille that they just beat the crap out of.
yeah,
Uh,
Nance angers occasionally. Like,
Brest.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This year maybe.
This is
Uh,
this is the one year you can say something nice about Brest. Um,
they're not normally A's. That's for sure.
yeah, I mean this one was a pretty consistent Brest side, so
I'm not mature enough for this conversation.
we're I love their shape. I love their presence. Um, there's just a thing about Brest that you just can't deny it. So
You're trying to get me fired, is what it is, aren't you?
I don't want your job. Just so you know. I don't.
No, I was quoting Micah at this point in time. I'm right. I'm on board with Micah Richards on that one. Where it is, I really am not
I
a
love
mature enough
Jamie
human for that.
Carragher's when Kate was like, "Do you think Brest will be exposed?" I hope so.
I hope so. Hopefully, we get to see two of them. Oh God,
Man,
I'm just
Jamie Carragher. I think this was the year for Jamie Carragher, by the way, because and then what was it? So I don't know what they do. I guess it was like him, Phil Neville, and Keane and Wright Phillips. They were just like
the round table.
yeah, they were just like walking around the park or something like that. And then Neville has to bring up the class of '92, and
Yeah,
Carragher's like, "Enough with the class of '92," and just like starts mocking him.
yeah. No, he also did an appearance on It's Called Soccer with I think that's Neville as well. Is that Neville?
Yeah, that's his show.
Yeah. So he did an appearance on there, and they riffed on the class of '92 again. So no, it's without fail. Jamie Carragher and Micah Richards had themselves a great last 12 months.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, going back to this final though. So PSG simply just got better and better and better. And we talk about it a lot in these tournaments. Sometimes it's not the best team. It's sometimes the team that's just in the right form. But in this case, the better team is also in really good form as well. So this is gonna. First of all, what are your expectations of this final? We're talking about Champions League final. Last final wasn't the prettiest of finals. Was there storylines? Oh yeah, you betcha was a bunch of storylines, but it just didn't go. I think how fans expect. Maybe it did go expected how expected because it was Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. But first of all, no Premier League team, no La Liga team. As a matter of fact, some may argue that Serie A is I think up there in the top three of the leagues in Europe right now, and then it's Bundesliga and Liga. That's if you ask me. But you have Inter Milan, team that's been to the final. Last time they won it was in 2010. You got PSG on the other side, who has never won it. They've been to the final during the pandemic. Most people feel like that was kind of an anomaly in some aspect, but haven't been able to get there since, but have been close. As a matter of fact, they were in the semifinal last year. They lost to Borussia Dortmund. Actually, the only team that made it back to the semifinals was PSG. Like when you think of the expectations between these two teams, like where are you at as far as like a final?
Yeah, I think this final, first of all, it's being played in Munich at Allianz Arena. So it's worth mentioning the last time a Champions League final was there. It was a 4-3 matchup. So very impressive back and forth affair. I think that's worth mentioning because that stadium is known for scoring goals in general, and these two teams are known for their ability to score goals. I think both teams are going to be on their attacking front foot and ready to go from the whistle. I think the biggest thing is which defense is going to be able to hold up to the pressure the most, which one's going to be able to hold to pressure and then convert it into an attacking chance, and in 5 minutes potentially take a goal scoring opportunity on one side and turn it into an actual goal scored on the other side. That's going to be the real difference. Both teams are really good. Both teams are incredibly in form right now. At least in the Champions League side. It's
two great goalkeepers too, by the way.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking Jan Sommer is not set to have himself a class act, but you mentioned the villain arc for Donnarumma in this one is ready and ripe for the picking. But I think Jan Sommer has been second fiddle in so many times, so many cases, that it's finally maybe his chance to stand on his head and showcase how good he actually is. Get to keep that title of best goalkeeper for at least a year. And I do like Lautaro Martinez as the first guy to score a goal. And I think that's going to set the pace there for Inter. Why I think Inter has a great opportunity to win. But I do think they have to be the first team to score. I think that's how this game is going to be decided. I think the first team that scores is going to be the winner. Where you often see a winner coming from the team who can rally from that first goal. This case, I think it's the team who scores first is my odds on for who's going to win this, which I believe is Inter, but it's going to go back and forth nonstop in this one. I don't think we're going to see it grinded out 1-0 or 1-1 into extra time and penalties. I think we're going to see a legitimate back and forth affair at some point in time in this match where we're going to have 2 or 3 goals traded.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great final. Once again, you got Jan Sommer versus Donnarumma, Marquinhos and Stefan de Vrij.
Yeah.
Stefan de Vrij. I mean, was it Barella? No, not Barella.
Yeah, Barella.
Bastoni.
Oh, yeah, Marco Bastoni.
Yeah, he's also a good defender. Both back lines are really good. Both the entire roster.
Yeah,
I would hate to create like a best 11 of this team, of these two teams, because it would be really hard to not pick one guy over the other.
I'd say the midfield goes to not Inter, but goes to PSG in this one. I would say that, but I think the defense is split and the attack is split pretty well. But I think that midfield leans more towards PSG.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really good game. I think it'll be, for PSG's sake, for the memes, it will be hilarious just for the fact that like it was always Mbappe this whole time. It was always
Mbappe and Neymar.
Yeah, it was Mbappe all along. And hey, the people that can't stand Inter Miami probably could be like, "Huh, it couldn't win it with Messi."
Yeah. It was all Eminem's fault.
Yeah,
as they called the Messi Neymar.
So this would be definitely the all-time game when it comes to narratives for PSG. Yeah. For Inter Milan, I think it just goes back to just me feeling like this is the most deserved team to win the Champions League. I think I will. No offense, Kelcey. No offense to Edward, but I thought Inter Milan was the best team in the Premier in this league, in this Champions League. They were so stout defensively, and I mean maybe they didn't have Liverpool's goal scoring and also Barcelona's goal scoring, but defensively, they were up there. I believe they were the best defense in the Champions League this season.
I believe in the knockout or in the group stage. You're correct.
Yeah. And so honestly, most deserving is Inter Milan. It would also be an insane one of those things where like you can't make this up. Like the beauty of this game where the team follows the same pathway the same year that they won it 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But also on the other side, how exciting would it be for PSG to finally lift the Champions League? This is what the Qatari group came here to do, right? They came in, bought this team, started telling them, go spend on whatever player you want. That's when you brought in Satan. That's when you brought in David Beckham. You poached Thiago Silva from AC Milan. This is when you had Gigi Buffon for 1 year. That was kind of weird. It's like
Hmm.
this you know all that the trial and error that PSG has gone through and obviously the objective was clear to win a Champions League. Ligue 1, yes, they wanted to win those. They want to win Coupe de France, but the real end goal, the real end product that they wanted was to win a Champions League final and be the last Ligue 1 team I believe that was in the Champions League final was actually Marseille, I think.
Mm, before PSG and COVID? I think
Yeah,
I think it was Marseille in '02 or 3.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Or was it Monaco with Henri?
Mm, Not entirely sure, but I felt like they were saying something like that about that. But anyways, probably, it's not important. But anyways, PSG is trying to get their first Champions League. This is why all this money was brought into this team. This is why whoever was investing into the guys that invested into PSG invested in PSG. They saw that they could build something with this team. They could tune this team perfectly. They went and got those names. They went and brought in the best players possible. They went and got the best French player at the time in Mbappe. Clearly, that didn't pan out. And as Madrid like it's hurting me now as I'm saying all this stuff. But this team is also poised to win the Champions League, I think, as well. These are two teams that both are fitting and deserving of a Champions League title. But I'm going with Inter Milan. I think they've just been clear cut the best team throughout the tournament.
That's fair. I think that's fair. Um,
Which I'm pretty sure everybody's rooting for Inter Milan. I don't. Weirdly enough, everyone hates PSG.
I'll be honest. PSG did themselves no favors with the Neymar Mbappe era. I have a hard time with that Neymar Mbappe era to kind of put that aside and know it's not that team anymore. I loved them was Latin. I loved that team. But then it was that Mbappe Neymar era was just ridiculous. Along with the Uruguayan forward whose name is running away from me right
Cavani.
now. Thank you. Yeah, Edinson Cavani up there as well. I think those three, I love playing with them in FIFA, but I hated to watch them play because it was just unfair in a lot of ways. But yeah, I get why PSG needs to win one. They definitely need to be that team that wins this one. Inter doesn't need to win. It would be a great story if Inter wins, but it feels like PSG needs to win this. Because to your point about Marseille a minute ago, Marseille is the only French team with a Champions League trophy to their name. So that's talk about it. French rivalry. Marseille and PSG are long rivals. Maybe not right now, but they are long historic rivals. And
Funny
Marseille
enough,
still has that
the
ability.
first Insert Name FC episode that we had, when we talked about Le Classique, it was actually the second episode. When we talked about the Le Classique, it actually ended with a fight. There was a brawl. That was like super early days of Insert Name FC. And I remember because it was like our games to watch this weekend. I was like, oh, Le Classique, that should be a good one. And I was like, all right, well, I didn't expect Fisticups to happen, but all right.
It's true though. Like that is an old school rivalry. So I think from that standpoint, I see why PSG needs to win this because they need to get even. At this point in time, you've been in two finals now. You have to come away at 50% from these finals, especially since I think their two finals. You probably had the two best opportunities for a team like PSG to win. They get the bad rap for being in a farmers league because they can't win the easier Champions League matchups they get put into. They're not getting placed against a Real Madrid. They're not getting placed against a Liverpool in Champions League finals. They're not getting placed against a Juventus. They're getting Inter this year, and that's an opportunity. And for Inter, it's a great story, but it's just a great story, which I think frees them up, which is why for me, I like Inter to win because I think they're playing freer. There's less pressure attached. There's a lot to prove if you're PSG that you don't need Mbappe. You don't need a Messi. You don't need a Neymar. You don't need Thiago Silva. You don't need Gigi Buffon. You don't need a big name coach. Because let's be honest, Luis Enrique was not a big name coach until 2021. I think it is a safe assumption. So you don't need all this. You don't even really need the Qatari money. And that's a proving point. Like, this team is not built necessarily on the Qatari money. It is, but it's not. Like, this team wasn't just like throwing money out the window to get this done. This is done under the FFP rules. They followed every financial fair play rule out there. So for PSG, they need this. But that's why I don't think they're going to be able to win, is because that pressure is unnecessary for these type of finals, and it doesn't allow you to think on the game. Whereas Inter is just, they're happy to be here, man. We're in Germany. We're a young squad, but we are just trying to prove how good of footballers we really are. And that's all they're trying to prove. They're not trying to prove that Italy's the best. They're not trying to prove Inter's the best Milan team. They're not trying to prove this. They're not trying to prove that. They're just out here to prove that they can know how to play the game of football. And I think that's going to set it apart. And that's why Inter, for me, wins.
Yep. I think it's going to be a good matchup. You got Inzaghi versus Luis Enrique, Donnarumma versus Samir. It's going to be a lot of storylines. You know, Lautaro Martinez versus Dembele, who's the better player. And I mean, Marquinhos' back line versus De Vrij's back line. You know, it's going to be a good one, man. I can't wait for that final. And it got to get here sooner than rather than later, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait, man. Kelcey, thank you so much for coming on. I know this was a long one for you, but I'm happy that you're always here.
Oh man, I always love it. You know that. Anytime I can come on, talk a little bit of football, the other football. Obviously, I talk a lot of NFL on my show, a lot of American sports on my show. But I honestly love the world game, the world's game of football more so. So I always enjoy having the opportunity to come on and talk about it, man. So I appreciate you having me. Even if Edward didn't want to show up again, I haven't seen Edward in a long time. I miss the guy.
Yeah, we need to find a way to get you on when Edward's on. But yeah, obviously, Kelcey, this is your time. Let us know what's going on with Belly Up Sports and also with Hilo.
Yeah, so Hilo Sports live every Wednesday on all of our social medias at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Then you can catch the replay of the show over on the Belly Up Sports YouTube page Thursday or Friday. We put it out one of those 2 days, sometimes Wednesday night if we're feeling real frisky, but I like my sleep, so it doesn't come out Wednesday night as often as I'd like. Be sure to check those out. But then on the Belly Up side, Hector mentioned it a couple times already. We've done the first round of Belly Up bonus rounds, which is just a fun group of guys, 3 guys. Round 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5 will all be the same guys: Hector, Vince, and Ryan McCarthy from No Credentials Required. Vince from Stove Report, and obviously Hector. You know where to find him. But no, we had some great conversations, play some fun games, different things to get a good vibe of everybody. That's not just like you see the personalities talk about their shows, but you don't see them talk general sports a lot. And that's what it's meant for. It's a lot of fun. So be sure to check that out. Bonus round 2 would have dropped the last weekend on the 8th. So be sure to check that out. And then round 3 drops on the 15th. So be sure to check that out. When they come out, and there's shorts all the time dropped. So it's a lot of fun. Drop your comments, drop some fun games we should try, some conversations we need to have. That's over on the Belly Up Sports YouTube page. So be sure to check all that out.
All right, Kelcey, always a pleasure to have you on, man. Super sub. We always got to make sure you get your appearance, man.
Yeah, I know. Every once in a while, I can be the Santi if you need me to, but otherwise, I just like to be the robot Peter Crouch.
Always good, man. All right, we're going to go ahead and segue into Liga MX because that's also a thing.
I'm a pupusa man myself. Better than tacos to me. I got to go with the
All right, guys. Liga MX, the quarterfinals are done, and we're moving on to the semifinals. Once again, by the time this episode drops, the first leg has already been played. So hopefully, it kind of goes similar to what the quarterfinals did. So we'll go with the first one. Obviously, Toluca ends up beating Monterrey 4-4. If you guys aren't fully aware with Liga MX as far as their playoffs goes, when it is tied on aggregate, the higher seed automatically advances. So there is no away goal rule. Do not fall for what Google says or whatever anyone tries to explain to you how Toluca advanced. There is no away goal rule. It is literally the higher seed advances to the next round in the event of a tied aggregate. So just so you guys know, is it fair? Probably not. But I think if you're Toluca, though, to go down 3-2 in the first leg, which I think it's not a bad result, right? I mean, you're still one goal away from, you're still a goal away, and to go back to your home stadium. I think is still a somewhat of an advantage. Like it's not a blowout, right? You weren't blown out, like so there is still some wiggle room to work around it. And then obviously the second leg, it was a 2-1 win for Toluca. I will point out though, they will be without El Niño and they will be without Briseño in the first leg of their semifinal opponent because both of them got red cards in the second leg. So, look, if you're Toluca, it almost looked like, oh no, we're back to the drawing board, right? That's very much how it looked. The first leg at least, because to be fair, there was only one goal scored by a Toluca player in that first leg. The other goal was an own goal. So I mean, probably not a great first leg, but I believe they responded properly by getting a 2-1 win in the second leg. And I think once again, yeah, Monterrey once again kind of gets screwed over by the aggregate goal rule. Obviously, last playoff, same thing happened to them when they played against Cruz Azul. They tied on aggregate, and unfortunately, they got eliminated because of it. Actually, as a matter of fact, I believe it was a semifinal. There's actually like a little realer TikTok video where I actually went on a rant about that. But am I a fan of this rule? No, I'll continue to express my displeasure with this rule. But for Toluca, this is progress. This is progress for them. Um, yeah, usually for them things don't go as well at all. I mean, literally last playoff they couldn't even score a goal against Club America. So this time around, able to respond to a going down 3-2 in the first leg to come back and at least tie it on aggregate. Yeah, you want a little bit more of a secure advancement, but nonetheless, I mean the aggregate goal rule worked in their favor, and I mean they can take that as a stepping stone. Obviously, they need to improve on it, and they're gonna have to improve on it because I think the competition gets a lot tougher further down this tournament. And Monterrey was no slouch. I mean, they scored a lot of. They're a high goal scoring team. Um, a lot of players on their team have a lot of experience, so this was a good first test for them. Um, not the result that they wanted, but they still move on. So at least that's the positive you can take for Toluca. All right, the next game, Club America beats seventh place Pachuca 2-0 on aggregate. The first leg was a 0-0, which is honestly kind of the way I usually like how these matchups go. I would prefer more often than not for a 0-0 because that just means the second leg it's anybody's game at that point. It's as fair even as possible. Tie in general, a draw in general. Like I just like when the first leg is tight. I mean, the 3-2 for Toluca was fine with me as well. But it was that second leg when you got to go into America's home, which my bad if I thought Estadio Azteca was still was playable for Club America. Apparently it's not. They're going through renovations and preparing for the World Cup. But they're still playing in a home, they still have a home stadium. But I think that that's what you want. Go in 0-0 and then go back to your home, have your home crowd, your home field advantage, and I think that's exactly what happened. Once again, this team is so good defensively. They did not give up a single goal in this series with Pachuca, a team that can score goals. Um, and Alejandro Zendejas was the man of the match for that second leg. So I think solid performance by Club America. Once again, that experience it shows. Once again, that defense shows that this team is capable and why they have high ambitions of having a four-peat in this tournament. So we'll see if they keep pushing. I think obviously heavy favorites is probably the word for Club America right now. I just don't think there's anybody that can really compete with them. Maybe there's one team I do think that could fare well against them, and I can't wait to discuss that further down the road. But all right, The next matchup was third place Cruz Azul beating sixth place Club Leon. They beat them 5-3. So the chip on the shoulder did nothing. Uh, so the first leg was a 3-2 win for Cruz Azul, and the second leg was a 2-1 win for Cruz Azul. So yeah, I mean, it was a. I think it was a valiant effort. I don't think it was necessarily too bad. It's just Cruz Azul is just better. I think once again, Vicente Sanchez has just done a tremendous job with this Cruz Azul team. This team is in anticipation of hoping to win a CONCACAF Champions Cup as well, and now they slayed a team that I think had a good storyline to go further if they were to go further in this tournament. But I think this goes back to show you why Cruz Azul is third place and why Club Leon um, barely had to. It was a decision day performance for them to get them into sixth place. So and some outside factors as well kicking in. So I think for Club Leon, it's unfortunate, but they'll be back. They'll be back. They have a lot of talent on that roster. I mean, Andres Guardado, I think this is his last season. So, I mean, as far as that goes, that's it for him. But I think this team this team is still going to be a team that we see very frequently in the playoffs. So I expect nonetheless on that part for Club Leon. But Cruz Azul advancing to the semifinals. And the final quarterfinal, Tigres, fourth place Tigres beats fifth place Necaxa 2-2. The obviously the aggregate goal rule where the higher seed advances automatically comes into play. First leg we saw a strong defensive performance of both teams, a 0-0 draw, and then we got to see some attacking with a 2-2 draw, but unfortunately Necaxa just couldn't get that third goal in, and Tigres moves on off a technicality, but still nonetheless one of the better teams defensively, second best defensive team in this tournament, and they showed why. And I think that yeah, they gave up two goals, but at the same time, they didn't let that third goal in. So I think that they definitely locked in and made sure that they work moving on to the next round. And I think maybe for them, they feel like they're going into their semifinal matchup in a more favorable position. But all in all, the quarterfinals, like I said, I'm happy how these matches went down. I'm happy that the first leg was no team got blown out in the first leg. I think that is a good sign. And then also the other thing was we got to see some drama. We got to see some close calls. Obviously, once again, the controversial aggregate goal rule was put in play twice in this round. But we'll see what the semifinals has in store for us. So we'll move on to the semifinals, and it is first place Toluca taking on fourth place Tigres. Like I said, man, these are both the teams that came out of the aggregate goal rule, which was obviously once again higher seed advances automatically. So, obviously if you're Tigres now, you can't tie on aggregate because obviously then America advances into the final. But Tigres should feel a little confident knowing that Toluca will be without Elino and will be without Breseño in the first leg. So that's gonna bode well for them, at least to give them some sort of advantage. You're losing two guys that are starters. At least were starters in that second leg. And if you're Toluca, I think this is another test for them. This is once again, once they're just trying to prove themselves, proving to Liga MX fans, proving to anyone that watches this league why they're the first place team, why they were the team that was the best goal scoring team. And I mean, they did score goals. They scored plenty of goals in that quarterfinal. Can they lock in defensively? Also, I want to apologize. I didn't realize Volpe was already Thiago Volpe was no longer with the club. But but still, Toluca is still a very good team, very strong team. Can they respond to Tigres' defense? Because I think that this is a good test, especially if potentially who they see in the final. Can they go up against a strong defensive unit, and can they win outright? Can they win without using that away goal, that away aggregate, the away goal, the aggregate rule? Can they do it? We'll see what happens right there. If I have to make a prediction, I feel like I have to always pick defense, man. Like I just at the end of the day, I think defense always prevails, especially in these matches. I just think Toluca once again, just while they are a strong team, and I think are continuing learning from their past mistakes. I just don't know. I think this is where Tigres' experience comes more into play. But if you're Toluca, you have to make a strong statement in that first leg. That's the that not that, and I think that that's going to be the challenge going into Monterrey, going back into Monterrey again. This time playing against the other team from Monterrey, and trying to get something positive out of there, either getting a draw or getting uh minus just be down by 1 goal or even getting a 1 goal lead. They need to make a strong statement in this first leg, and obviously I can't tell you right now what that result is because it hasn't been played yet, at least in my eyes. But like I said, once again, by the time this gets dropped, it's already happened. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Tigres. I think Tigres advances to the final. Um, I just don't think Toluca. Maybe this is like the thing I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna just keep doubting Toluca and hoping that they make it to the final because, as much as I still will love to see them in the final. I just think that this is another hurdle for them and another learning opportunity for this team that's trying to get back on top of Liga MX. Can they do it? I hope so, but I'm gonna side with Tigres right now. I'm just gonna pick defense for right now. I think I think that's fair to say. And then the other semifinal, we have Club America, second place Club America taking on third place Cruz Azul, and it is a rivalry. Both teams are from Mexico City, so really juicy game. I can't wait for this one. I'm actually going to be very much excited to watch these two matches uh, break through. Once again, America, best defensive team. And I'm going to say this. I think that this is the best. If there was a team that I could feel confident in going up against America, I think it's Cruz Azul. Now, let me be transparent and let me make sure I know who won the last game because I think that's pretty important. The last meeting between the two. Um, Probably should have done the same for uh for for the Toluca game, but that's neither here nor there. We're past that. Um, Also, fun fact: Cruz Azul hasn't lost in 18 matches, so that's a interesting thing to point out. So last time they played was actually this past month. No, that's wait no, that's not. I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Um, Last time they played was in April, and it was a 0-0 draw. So, and they also and also Cruz Azul eliminated America in the Concacaf Champions Cup. So they've had a few matches already against each other. So obviously, I think America would love to return the favor by eliminating them in this tournament. But yeah, this is gonna be a tight matchup. It's gonna go down the wire, and I can't wait for it. Like I said, I think Cruz Azul is probably like everyone's best chance. If you're pulling for America to fail, this is your best chance at getting them eliminated. I think if America makes it to the final, they're going to win the whole thing. So Cruz Azul, I think honestly is the is the final line of defense. I think that this is the team that can actually do it. I believe in Vicente Sanchez. So I'm gonna predict Cruz Azul. I think Cruz Azul beats America. It's not an upset because I think at this point it's the four best teams in Liga MX that are in the semifinals. I think Cruz Azul eliminates America. Yes, I'm also an America hater, but still, I think Cruz Azul again still overcomes again, eliminates America again in a playoff and moves on to the final. So my prediction for the final is going to be Cruz Azul versus Tigres, which we'll see what happens, man. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Toluca can make it to the final. Once again, I'm gonna stand firm on it. I believe if America makes it to the final, they're going to win their 4P. They're gonna do it. I just don't. I think this team. I think America is the best team in Liga MX. Like no offense to Toluca, but I think a team that can defend and score goals. I think this is to me America is the best team in this tournament. And if they get in the final, they're going to be lifting that trophy. And I don't want to see that. So that's why I'm hoping Cruz Azul can do it. I believe in Vicente Sanchez and his boys. And so we'll see how that all transpires. But all right. Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing site app. I love the simplicity of SeatGeek. Edward loves the simplicity of SeatGeek. Spencer loves the simplicity of SeatGeek. And if you guys aren't sold yet, let me explain to you about SeatGeek. It has a wide array of tickets ranging from concerts all the way to live sporting events. And it gives you a grade on every single seat that you're looking at that app. Now, if the color is red and a very low score, then that means for that price, for those seats, keep looking. You're going to find a better deal. If the seat's green and it has a very high score, that means for that seat, for that price, you're getting a great deal. Go ahead and enjoy your event. We love the simplicity of SeatGeek. And if you guys aren't sold just yet, Jesus Christ, man, what are we doing? For first-time users, use the code BELLYUPSPORTS at checkout and you'll save $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets. My player of the week is Christian Pulisic, who scored a goal and assist in AC Milan's 3-1 win against Bologna. Now, some people are going to tell me, hey, Santi Jimenez also scored 2 goals in that game. And you're right, he did. But Christian Pulisic's goal was actually what I think Christian Pulisic's goal and assist was what gave them the lead. So that's why I'm picking that one. Though I will say nothing against Santi Jimenez. He did score the dagger in that matchup against Bologna, but Christian Pulisic, I mean, he also got man of the match for that game, and also props to Christian Pulisic because he was actually going to give the award to Santi Jimenez. One thing, I think that there is a relationship building between the two. I think that's important for them as far for AC Milan further down the road. But yes, strong performance from Christian Pulisic nonetheless. So he is my player of the week. And Edwards' player of the week is Rafinha, who scored 2 goals in Barcelona's 4-3 win against Real Madrid in El Clasico. So yeah, congratulations to Christian Pulisic and Rafinha for being our players of the week. Once again, guys, go to SeatGeek.com. Use that code BellyUpSports for first-time users. Get $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets. And we'll go ahead and segue into games to watch this weekend.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
All right, guys, games to watch this weekend. Obviously, the semifinals of Liga MX playoffs, the second legs are going to be kicking off. So we'll see who's going to the final for Liga MX. We also got the Texas Derby, Houston Dynamo versus FC Dallas in Frisco, Texas. And I'll go ahead and say it right now. I'm going to be at Frisco. I am going to be at Frisco this weekend. I'm going to link up with Jose Tejas of Goals TV, and we're going to go ahead and do a watch along. Maybe not actual live watch along, but we're going to watch the match together, and we'll first time meeting Jose, so I could be getting catfish, guys. I don't know. I might be catfishing Jose. For all I know, I maybe sent him a lot of misleading information about my body. No, yeah, we're kidding. Everybody knows I'm fat. Even Jose knows I'm fat. I made a lot of comments about being fat in front of Jose. Jose should know at this point. But yeah. So FC Dallas and Houston. So if you guys, any of you FC Dallas fans, if you guys see me there, obviously, go ahead and say hi to me, and maybe tell me I suck. Maybe call me fat. I don't know. Just have fun with it. Maybe if you guys actually pronounce my name properly. This will be the part. This is going to be the area where you guys are going to finally find out how my name is actually pronounced. It is Hector. Hector is the proper pronunciation of my name. Am I mad that people don't pronounce my name right? No, I don't care. That's because I don't expect people to know how to pronounce every word in the dictionary, period. But that's all fine and dandy. But yes, the proper pronunciation of my name is Hector. The accent mark is on the E. So yes, the H, I guess in some sense the H is silent. So because Hector. But yeah, so I don't care. You can call me Hector. You can call me Hector. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me at all if you properly pronounce my name. Everyone has done it since my life. So I don't expect anybody to be able to constantly know that there's an accent mark in my name. As a matter of fact, I don't even put the accent mark on my name when I write it. So that just goes to show you sometimes. As a matter of fact, like whenever I do the social media for the podcast, whenever I type Hector or Hector, they automatically put the accent mark on it. So that's kind of funny. But But yeah. So, anyways, that is. But yeah, I'll be at Frisco. I'll be watching. Houston Dynamo may not embarrass me in FC Dallas. We'll see what happens there. We got the FA Cup final. We got Crystal Palace versus Manchester City, and me hoping that Crystal Palace can beat Manchester City, so I don't have to deal with the embarrassment of what Arsenal has been bringing me this year. But anyways, we'll continue on. Inter Miami and Orlando City, the Florida rivalry there. We'll see how that goes. Does Inter Miami keep twirling down where they are right now? We have El Tráfico. LA Galaxy still have yet to have gotten a win this season. Can they do it against their cross-city rivals, LAFC and El Tráfico? So we'll see what happens there. Should be the storylines upon storylines, man. In Liga, we got Marseille versus Stade Rennes and RC Lens versus Monaco. In the Bundesliga, we got Freiburg versus Eintracht Frankfurt. RB Leipzig and taking on VfB Stuttgart. Those are some good matches. Obviously, at this point, it's all about positioning on the table because they already have their champions. You know, you saw the images of Harry Kane lifting his first trophy. Also, guys, go check out the Bonfire. Go check out Insert Name This Bonfire site. Get yourself that Anything is Possible Harry Kane Champions shirt. In the Serie A, we got AS Roma taking on AC Milan and Inter Milan taking on Lazio. Inter Milan, as we discussed with Kelcey, still has a ways to go to get back into the first place position in Italy. In La Liga, we got Atletico Madrid versus Real Betis and Barcelona taking on Villarreal. Barcelona only needs 2 points to secure La Liga. So if they win this, it's win and they're champions. Hell, they can tie the next 2 games and they'll still be champions. So it is at this point just, is Barcelona going to win the game? I feel many people are very confident in it. They have really nothing else to focus on at this point. So this could be the match where Barcelona clinches La Liga once again. And just another, just the bow at the end of all this of the start of the Hansi Flick era at Barcelona. In the Premier League, we got 3 matches for you guys to watch, man. Chelsea versus Manchester United, Aston Villa versus Tottenham, and Arsenal versus Newcastle United. It's all about positioning, and if you're Manchester United and Tottenham, it's all about just trying not to look as bad as where you are right now in the standings. So we'll see how that goes. We're going to go ahead and take one more break and then go right into wrapping this show up.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, we can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys, I want to give a huge thank you to Kelcey for coming on. I know this episode was probably a little bit lengthier than usual, but it was a good conversation with Kelcey, and I hope you guys had fun with it nonetheless, being as long as this episode was. But I want to give a shout out to the Belly Up Podcast Network. Check out their website, bellyupsports.com. Lots of great articles that are being written in that site. Go ahead and check them out. Also, shout out to check out their social medias on Instagram and X at Belly Up Sports. Also, Goals TV, man. Be on the lookout, man, because this weekend, like I said, I'm going up to Dallas for obviously to go watch the FC Dallas Houston Dynamo match. I'm gonna link up with Jose. I'm sure we're gonna do some content, make some memes, have fun, all that stuff. So we'll see what happens there. Also, I'm also driving up to go see my friend Jeremy, which is one of my good friend, one of my brothers from my time in the Marine Corps. So I'm really excited to link up with him and see his kids because he has a new kid. So I haven't met him yet. So I gotta go, go hang out with them and all that. So. But yeah, check out Goals TV, GOZ.TV. Check out the website. If you guys want some soccer content that is made here in the U.S., you'll find it right then and there. Also check out their social media on Instagram on Instagram at goals.tv, GOZ.TV, and on the X at goals_TV, GOZ_TV on the X. And of course, we can't end this show without Roosevelt Spencer, man, the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award. We love him so much. We appreciate him so much that we named an award after him. And if you don't understand why we appreciate him, it's because he provides the beats for this podcast. If you like the intro and outro for this podcast, that is because Spencer has made them. So if you guys like the beat work that we have, well, hit him up on Instagram at that guy dope. Once again, at that guy dope, and he'll take great care of you like he always does with us. Also, congratulations, Edward. He won the jersey bet that we have for the league table. Obviously, we're no more singing bet. So Edward finally wins this thing, and he doesn't get to pick songs for somebody to sing. He just has to, he gets a jersey, which, I mean, I think that's a fair trade-off. But yeah, congratulations, Edward. You finally win one, buddy. And it took Barcelona to have this magical run that they have. So let's cheers to Edward. But yeah, man, that is episode 218. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a long one. Catch us next week for 219, where I'm sure we're gonna have some more fun discussions involving the beautiful game. Take care, guys.